I was I'll tell you afterwards because it's working.
All right, I'm gonna let everybody in. Yep. Okay. Coming in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Shirley, it's Josephine from D20. I'm driving, so I'm not going to be able to mute myself when you do roll call.
I can mute you.
If you could just note it, I'm here. Thank you.
I got you. Okay, we are putting out districts, not our PTAs. Good morning, everyone. We'll start exactly at 9:30. We are live streaming and recording. Help me out, Priscilla. I'm going to rename you. What district you are again?
Good morning, D9.
Yeah, I see. I was good, but I lost you. I
Okay,
think you did it
thank you.
yourself, but I will. Oh no, here you go.
No,
I got you.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else that need to help? I think we're good for now. One more minute and we're going to start. I hope your week, I'm already losing my voice. I hope your week is good. Yeah. All right, we got quite a bit. We're going to start on time, and we have more than quorum on. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. Today is Thursday, March 14th, and it's our virtual general membership meeting. This is our current board members. And I want to take note, leadership is not being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those who are in your charge. And we're going to speak a little bit more on that in our updates. CPAC meeting procedures and standing rules. Every month it's sent out. We should read them. We're going to summarize it in this way. We're going to ask to wait to be recognized before speaking. So you're going to either use the hands function, literally raise your hands, or place it in the chat that you would like to speak. And we're going to ask everyone to be respectful, courteous, and professional. And it's okay to disagree. Just do it amicably. There's 2 minutes or less for your comments or questions. No follow-up questions. Remember, others would like to speak, so be mindful of the time. Do not unmute yourself to say you have your hands up. We ask for no side conversations in the chat. And don't be disrespectful. We don't have that issue this school year. And please don't ask follow-up questions after your question has been answered. Raise your hands or place it in the chat to ask follow-up questions. We're going to do roll call. And again, most of you already have your district or borough president's council or citywide in front of your name. But please do so if you haven't. And I'm going to start, and we're going kind of backwards. Staten Island high schools. Staten Island high schools, are you present? Okay. Queens High Schools, I'm here representing Queens High Schools. Manhattan High Schools. I didn't see those. Brooklyn High Schools. Bronx High School. District 75. And Randy, if you see them, just let me know. District 24. District 25.
Here.
I see you, Rachel. Thank you. District 26.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. District 27. 27. District 28. They're excused. District 29.
Present, District 29.
Good morning. Thank you, Joanne. District 30. I know Becca is here. District 7. District 8.
Present, good morning.
Good morning. District 9. I know Priscilla's here.
Yes, thank you.
District 10. District 11. District 12. District 1. District 2.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. District 3.
Present.
District 4. District 5. Good morning, Aisha. I know you're here. District 6. District 6. Okay. District 20 is here. District 21.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Ben. District 22. 22. District 23.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Serena, welcome. District 13. District 13. District 14. 14. District 15.
District 15 is here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. District 16. 16. District 17. Now I gotta drink something.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Veronica. District 18. 18. District 19. District 32. Is he not here? District 31. I saw you.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Pamela, I saw you come in, Staten Island High Schools. I'm gonna call it again.
Yes, sorry, I'm here.
All right, good morning, everybody. The attendance sheet is placed in the chat. Everyone, please fill it out. Whether or not you were here during roll call or not, please fill. That is official records for our attendance. Well, it's March Madness. For us, it's not only the basketball, it's March Madness. There's a lot of things going on, conversations about the budget, mayor control, smaller class size, and then the normal everyday things that we have to do, getting ready for elections. Some are going to have their elections starting next month, preparing for that, preparing for the end of school, end of year activities. So this is a really busy month. This month also is parent-teacher conference. So there's a lot going on. Women's History Month. If you haven't noticed, it's Women's History Month, and we're celebrating all the wonderful women who has contribute and continue to contribute, and all leaders in our history. Women's History Month tend to be international, so we're all celebrating across the world, and that's because women run the world. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about business and updates. We're going to get updates from Family and Community Engagement Division. We're going to do CPAC Settles Not So Secret Gems. Mr. Settle is going to talk about district leadership teams. Then we're going to have the Office of Student Enrollment to talk about admissions. Then we're going to hear from Office of Food and Nutrition Services. They're going to give us updates and an overview. Then we're going to hear from our fabulous chancellor. Then it's going to be followed by Chief Mark Rapperson, Chief of Office of Student, Youth and Development, and some of our regulations regarding safety. And then we're going to hear from Ms. Levine regarding presentation on stimulus money expiration. So our minutes, our February 8 minutes is tabled for next month. And as soon as the minutes are ready, you will receive both February and March. So we're going to jump right into it. Again, it's spring election seasons. So we are doing our nominating committees and having our school elections. Again, the first earliest month to have elections is actually next month. And some of us do have elections in April. So your nominating committee is formed and your nomination meeting is this month if you're having elections in April. We just want to highlight something that seems like is pretty precedent and ask questions right now. Only parents can conduct elections. The principal can't, teachers can't, parent coordinator can't. It's all in the regs. It's a parent voice, it's parent led, parent run. So associations President's councils. Only parents can conduct elections. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, and parents running elections or parents, legal guardians who are members, only members can run. Members can only chair meetings, and members can only conduct elections. With that said, there are exceptions to the rule if the membership is looking for support for their elections, or they cease to function. The reg says someone from the superintendent's team, which is the family leadership coordinator, is the one who does the elections, or and in conjunction with President's Council. Those are the only ones outside of membership are conducting elections. No one else. Now, we're going to speak about one of our members, Brooklyn High School President's Council. At another public forum, Brooklyn High Schools have noted that they are not receiving any support. And they're not receiving support. One, lack of attendance at the CPAC meeting. The last time Brooklyn High Schools appeared on a platform, attended a meeting was the fall of 2022. They are not able to meet quorum at their President's Council meetings. They're not getting support because they refuse support. They actually have 2 members of CPAC as members of Brooklyn High Schools, and those 2 members are actually on the board, and they're not allowing support. And I'm going to give direct examples. They're removing them from the meeting, or they're not letting them in the meeting, or they're muting them, or they're not sending notifications. And they're not sending notification to all of Brooklyn High Schools either. Now, refuse to give support. Brooklyn High School's been complaining that they're not receiving support for President's Council or receiving training or PD at the meetings. But again, this school year, they haven't had an official meeting because they aren't able to meet quorum. They are violating virtual guidelines, using personal Zoom. If you're going to use Zoom, you must use a DOE Zoom. We also had asked them to send someone else, because we know the importance of turnkeying the information to our associations so they can get the information needed and get the support and guidelines that's necessary to have our functioning and strong parent voice at the school level. And also, their bylaws are not in compliance. They are not updated, and the reg's been updated since 2021. They still haven't updated. So technically, Brooklyn High School President's Council meetings need to be in person because they do not have the virtual platform in their bylaws. So my suggestion is for the members of Brooklyn High School, please hold your board accountable. Please hold your superintendents accountable, to hold them accountable so you can get the support you need. CPAC has supported Brooklyn High Schools, not President's Council, the high schools directly, because Brooklyn Council is like MIA. The board is MIA. And so they're not receiving that support. Anything you want to add before I move to the next slide? Because I usually don't do it, but since Brooklyn High School's made it public, so we're making it public. And again, in order to be, you know what the phrase is, you got to be in it to win it. And they haven't been here since the fall of 2022. Randy, you want to add something to that before I go?
Shirley, you really summed it all up.
Okay, so next, PTAs are autonomous too is the heading on this slide. And I'm saying that because President's Council are anonymous. So I'm saying that because sometimes we tend to forget, you know, we're here to support. We're not here to grade, evaluate, test, whatever phrase that is synonymous with those words. We're here to support and guide and assist. That is, we're taking care of who are in charge. You know, they are autonomous too. They may have their own ways of doing things, long as they are in compliance with the regs and their bylaws. Their bylaws don't contradict the regs. They're following procedure. that is our role here, is to support, and probably the biggest time of support now is nominations and elections. And I hope at each President's Council, we are supporting and going over and, conducting our own little PDs to ensure that our associations are good. Next, the school survey. The New York City School Survey has been out since last month, and it's due April 5th. Please encourage your members. Please, if you haven't done it yourself, everyone who's listening, take the New York City School Survey. Summarizing is being done a different way. You're going to use your New York City My Schools account. Everything is on the New York City Public School website, the survey, and how to sign up for summarizing. The end date for summarizing is March 25th. And I'm going to take a pause after this slide if anybody has any questions. So, school leadership team and the federal stimulus package. I'm going to see if you're up. I know it's early in the morning. Anyone knows the line, the budget line, how it reads on, how does the budget line reads for federal stimulus package? In other words, how does it, how do you know which line indicates federal stimulus monies are being spent or being used? Anybody? You can put it in the chat. Anybody knows? Okay, so I'm gonna linger on that. It's ARPA. It stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. How many people, you can raise your hands or type yes in the chat. How many know how your school is spending federal stimulus package? Anybody? All right. So, at the school leadership team, the budget, how money is spent must align to the comprehensive education plan. And conversations about the budget and how it's spent should be in the center of conversations along with the CEP at your meetings. We're specifically going to talk about the federal stimulus because some of it has expired, some is about to be expired very shortly, and some monies will be need to be used by the last day of school. We want to have this conversation. I'm going to ask another question to engage y'all. So if your monies are spent, right, the expiration date, I'm going to give an example. I like the money is paying for 3 guidance counselors in our school, right? We have CPAC, our CPAC school. We're using our federal stimulus package for to pay 3 guidance counselors. Does that automatically mean that we will not have those guidance counselors because the funds are expired? Take a guess. You could put it in the chat. Does that mean we will lose our our 3 guidance counselors? I'm seeing no, not automatic, but highly likely. Some says yes. Any others before I move? Yes. So both no's and yes are correct, but you have to have the conversation. And we are calling to action to have to talk about how to review how federal stimulus money is being used at your school leadership team meeting this month, right? Because you might find other ways or be able to get other money to keep our 3 guidance counselors. But we need to have that conversation. It doesn't automatically means we don't have the funds no more. That program, the after school program that we're using it for, or the arts program is going to go away, or our 3 guidance counselors. You need to have this conversation. And why is the importance of having this conversation now? We're going to find out a little later of our last guest speaker. But in April, the principal has to give a preliminary a preliminary view of how monies are going to be spent for the next school year to the superintendent. So before they give that a preliminary, these discussions should be happening right now at the school leadership team meetings. You're having these conversations. So we're asking to go back, tell your members, tell you to go back and on your SLTs, and we all sit as a mandatory member on the school leadership team to have these conversations. And the ultimate goal is so we can advocate, right? So we can advocate for funds. Listen, this is the dollar amount we need, and advocate to our elected officials, both locally and at the state level and federal level. I hear President Biden said that he was going to extend the federal stimulus, but that's not set in stone yet. I could be wrong. But we are talking about these monies now that's about to expire. And we need to have those conversations so we can be articulate and smart. So we'll know the dollar amount and we know how much, what are we spending those monies for? Are we still only spending it on staff? Are we spending it on programs? Are we spending it on resources? So these conversations need to have so we can be more articulate and informed and advocate for our schools more smartly. I'm going to ask if there's any questions on any of the updates real quick, because I'm already 2 minutes, so I could give face their updates. And we can also address it. I see some issues regarding SLTs towards the end of the meeting. But in the meanwhile, capacity building, communications, and Title I are going quarterly. It still be the first Tuesday of the month, but it'll be every quarter now. They had their meetings this month. So April, May. So next time is June. The legislative committee is going to have their meeting April 30th. And I believe they're quarterly too. The high school is every first Monday of the month. We had their meeting. Special education is supposed to be last Friday of the month. And hopefully they will start this month for that committee. Wellness committee is the second Wednesdays of the month. And this month on the 18th, the quarterly alumni committee is quarterly on March 18th. And A655 working group, we said that the actual group have done the revision, waiting for a draft so it can move on to the next stage. The citywide comprehensive education plan template and I-plan working group has been in progress for a couple of weeks now, and what I can say is you should be noticing at your district leadership team and your school leadership team, the official DLT, SLT monthly calendars is official, and it's starting this month to start uploading documents. And it also has topic of agendas, speaking points that are suggested speaking points each for each month. So also it tells you there's a portion of uploads. So we're uploading our attendance sheets, the agenda, the minutes, any documents that attached that was used at the DLT presentation or SLTs, all of this to keep in compliance with New York State education accountability, right? And they are stressing on school leadership teams, CEPs, and Title I's. So all those things, Title I's, also their meetings, attendance sheets are going to be uploaded into this, into the I-plan portal. I'm not sure of this exact date, but I know this is your birthday month, Dr. Melendez. So we're gonna, I think, don't kill me, but we're gonna have a happy birthday early. And then on that note, I'm going to ask you to give your updates. Now we have our updates from FACE and Dr. Melendez, and we have Jesse Mojica, who is the Deputy Executive Director, on the platform with us, and our FACE liaison from the government's team, Anthony Settle, is all here. I'm going to stop sharing and I will give you the floor.
Well, good morning, CPAC, and thank you, Shirley, for the introduction and the birthday wishes. You're not early. My birthday is March 9th, so there was a year
See-
where you actually had a meeting on the same day, so it was wonderful. But thank you for remembering, and thank you all for being here. It's always a pleasure to join you. Lots of things are going on the face side, so I wanted to start with we're having town halls, so we just had 28. We are scheduling one every Monday of March, so we'll be out there doing work. Tonight we have a training for CC presidents around their AAs and sort of all of the HR requirements there. The governance team is also put out some PD sessions for bias awareness and parliamentary procedures for our CECs that we're also trying to figure out how to invite you all if you're interested and maybe have just one session for you or reserved for you around the parliamentarian work specifically, but also the bias awareness work. And it's happening every month. The same two PDs are going to be reoccurring. So it's March and April and May and June. We'll have those PDs out there. So look out for those emails and we'll make sure to include CPAC in that. We have a resource fair for all of our families. It's going to be very literacy focused. It's coming June 1st. Place to be determined, but we held this last year and we want to do a resource fair that's very literacy specific for June. For literacy specific in June. So be on the lookout for that. Our PEP application has been open since March 1st. All of our CEC elected PEP members have to go through their yearly process of being re-elected. And so if you are interested in applying, I am sure that they would be interested in receiving your application and reviewing it. So I will put the application process in the chat for you, or maybe someone on the team can do that while I keep talking. We have A655 you kind of already shared. I'm happy to report that it's done with draft and we are going into the next space, which is our legal team reviews it. And then we'll have a good once over with all of the departments here to read over it and chime in, particularly those that are directly affected by this regulation, which is everybody because it's school-based. And so that's going to be, that's moving along nicely. And then we'll hopefully have that in the PEP by the end of this year. And then we'll start A660, which I know many have requested some thoughts around extending the president time or from 1 year to 2 years. And then our homeschools partnership has started. This is week 6 of our literacy cohorts where we're supporting families and understanding the science of reading. Families, we have over 1,000 families enrolled in cohorts 1 and 2. We are offering these trainings in English and in Spanish and in Mandarin. Folks are having a wonderful time. We host makeup sessions where we play the recording while it's live, but it's not live, but we are there with you. And so we have watch parties alongside of you, and those seem to be very fun as well for families. So I know there are many of you here on this call that can attest to all the wonderful work that's happening in there. And that's definitely because of all of your participation. So thank you for coming and thank you for continuing to come. Those groups of parents are going to be hosting their own events in their school communities or maybe their community at large, or maybe just their building or their family. And so we're really excited to see what they do with that information. So that's forthcoming as well. So make sure to be supportive of them. We also have CBO partners who are joining us in this opportunity to support literacy in our communities. And so they'll be hosting events as well. And then every borough is hopeful to have or host a big book party coming soon. I will share those locations and dates, but they're going to start in April. And it's literally a party where we're going to have about 2,000 books at each one of these events. And not only are we giving them away, but it's a whole literacy party to ensure that everyone realizes just how fun reading can be. We'll have artists and guests and authors and storytellers, theater, all of those kinds of things. So we're excited to share that in as the weather gets warmer. Jesse, am I missing something?
Just a couple of things that are happening concurrent to as we speak here, Christina, is the convening with CBO partners is happening, members. We work very close with CBOs, and we bring them together to collaborate. And today's collaboration with CBO partners is to discuss collaboration on summer programming and support for migrant families. And also happening today is we have a variety of what we call different PC experiences, where we have parent coordinators go out to particular parts of the city. A lot of them are cultural institutions or other or museums or other places, just to get a sense of the resources that are out there. So in District 23, we are having a PC experience at Brooklyn Bridge Park. And on the 19th, we also convene our city agencies, and we're going to be having a city agency spotlight. We've had city agencies come together, and we usually spotlight one city agency in each of these convenings with city agencies. In the past, we've had spotlights on DYCD, and also on ACS. And on March 19th, the city agency spotlight is NYPD will be presenting at that city agency spotlight. But I believe, Christina, we've covered everything. Those were just a few of the things I just wanted to mention as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. And I think all of that is not, I think, a couple of things. I think FACE is doing some of the work to really be supportive of some of the spaces that parent leaders are in, so that those folks are more prepared to give you the resources and supports that you need. So we know that if we empower PCs in all of these experiences, that the goal is that they share it with their school communities and their parents, and teachers as well, right? And that they have their own connection with these institutions, so that we can expand the reach. And then there's also our CBO partnership and our city agency partnerships. Those are really about us getting to know each other, it's getting to know the CBOs and getting to know other city agencies, so that we can be more collaborative in service of all of you. So if I've said it before, but if you ever need some sort of direct connection with any of these agencies, or any sort of communication or information, we are more than happy to leverage the connections we have to be in support of you and your school communities. So definitely let us know in those spaces what you may need. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Shirley.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the updates. We're always glad to have one of our wonderful partners with us, and to continue our partnership with FACE. We're going to have our CPAC's liaison speak on our segment on Settles, Not So Secret Gems, our district leadership team. So, Mr. Settle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shirley. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well. Warmer weather is upon us, and so I hope you're able to get out at some point today and enjoy the sun, get that good old vitamin D flowing through your systems. So, Settle's Not So Secret Gems. So here's the not so secret gem for today, DLTs. What is a DLT? I know that you know what a DLT is, so I'm not even going to begin to describe or go into the elongated explanation of a DLT. What I want to do is offer you some things that I think you should bring back to your next DLT meeting that should be supporting the SLTs in your schools. So, excuse me, in preparing for today, I went all the way back in time, space, and history to look at the Green Book. Some of you might be aware that there was once a document called the Green Book that outlined what SLTs and DLTs were all about. And so I went all the way back to that document to see if we were still in line with that document. And I think for the most part, we are. So that's the good news. Here's where I think we could get better. DLTs really should be functioning as a source of primary support for the SLTs in your district or in your boroughs, in your district. So even if you are a borough high school, if you're a high school and you're aligned boroughly, you should be, there should be some representative from the high schools attending the SLT, the DLT meeting in that district where those schools are, right? Where we have high schools in those districts, which we do in every district. So there should be a representative from your president's council, because I'm not going to lay the burden all on the back of the president's council president, right? So one way of involving people, and you've heard me talk about this all year, is to delegate. So by delegating responsibility to members to attend DLT meetings is really, really important. It gives your council a voice at that DLT meeting, right? Gives your president's council a voice at that DLT meeting, along with the district president's council. So you can work collaboratively together on that DLT to address issues of parents and students at the DLT meeting. But here's some of the things that I think are really, really important to keep in mind in regards to how a DLT supports an SLT or SLTs within the district. One, DLT should be the primary exemplar of how an SLT should function. So the manner in which you're coming to make decisions through consensus and building consensus on a DLT should be seen as the example for an SLT, right? We know there's no voting on SLTs. And so if there's no voting on SLTs, how do you make decisions? You make decisions through consensus. What is consensus? It is going back to the constituencies, right? Your own constituency base, offering to them an opportunity to weigh in, to give their input, their feedback on the things that you are discussing at your SLT meetings. And as a DLT, the president of the councils should be doing that with its members, taking issues, taking concerns, taking policies back to those constituencies, soliciting the feedback, and then bringing that feedback to the DLT meeting. So how you do that as a DLT should be seen as the primary example of how an SLT should also be doing the same thing. How are you addressing centralized policies that are impacting the district? How are you addressing challenges of students that are impacting the district? Because if they're impacting the district at the elementary and middle school level, more than likely some of those same environmental issues, and when I'm speaking environmental, more than just climate, right? But the environment in which that school exists within a district are also going to be impacting the high school. So that's where the high school and the district president's council should be working together to address issues that are being brought to the DLT. So the language that's in the Green Book is consistent with the goals of increasing school level autonomy and meeting the particular needs of schools. District supports should be developed with meaningful input from school staff and parents. That's your voice, right? That is your voice. Meaningful or increasing school level autonomy and meeting particular school needs is best developed with meaningful input from school staff and parents. Let's go with parents. I've always said, some of you have heard me say this, right? Your voice is not only important, but there's no better person who's going to know the child or know students in their schools than parents, right? You know your child, but you also know your child's friends. So you have a sense of what they're thinking, how they're reacting, how they're behaving, what's happening in their school. You get that sense. Those things should be brought to the DLT to address those concerns when they're looking at the challenges. So if you're looking at the challenges of the L population in your schools or migrants in your schools, that parent voice is very, very important. It means you should be doing your homework to understand what the issues are, which means you're asking questions at the DLT, not just sitting there listening to numbers, not just there listening to other people talk about these things, but you have voice. But that should be also the primary example for your SLTs as well. So your meaningful input is important. To the greatest extent possible, support should be structured to give schools direction in the choice of services and providers. So as a DLT, you should also be looking at what services are we providing to schools, right? As they are developing their CEPs, as the district is developing its DCEP, that should also be reflected in the school's CEP. They should be mirrors of each other, of course, indicating the particular issues that are impacting a particular school, but those particular issues should be those those resources and successes should be seen within the overarching umbrella of what the district is doing to address those issues and needs as well. I also think as a DLT, you can also provide certain levels of training to SLTs. And if you're not doing that, that's something that maybe you should start to think of doing, right? Is providing certain levels. All the people who are sitting on the DLT, presumably, I'm not going to assume, we're going to presume that are knowledgeable within their area of expertise. And how you are functioning as a DLT, you can also talk to an SLT about how they should function. So you can offer that kind of support, and calling SLTs together to provide those kinds of opportunities is really, really important. I also think there's a real value when the members of the DLT are seen by SLT members in the district as working together and working collaboratively together and building consensus and making decisions. That, again, the example is being set for SLTs in the district. Shirley, I'm just going to take I see 1 or 2 questions here. Do you want to offer them to me, or do you want me to just read them out?
I know there's a question about how can you get a copy of the Green Book?
I searched high and low for this. I finally found one, and it's gold. I'm not parting with it yet. So there are no more copies generally of the Green Book. But where you don't have a Green Book, you have Chancellor's Regulation A655. And as Dr. Melendez mentioned, we're in the process of revising that document. And so once that is finalized and put forth to the public and as an approved document by the PEP, then you will also have that to as your quote unquote Green Book. But this Green Book was issued in 1997, and we have far advanced beyond that. I'm just looking at certain little gems within this book that we are still consistent with A655 to share with you. And so the primary thing that I'm taking away from the Green Book is the level of support that the DLT can provide to the SLT. And that's really, really important. The DLT's primary responsibility is to craft the DCEP, the District Comprehensive Education Plan, just like the primary responsibility of an SLT is to draft and to craft the CEP, whatever CEP is applicable to your school, right? That's what you're doing. And what is happening there? The same thing that's happening at the SLT is happening at the DLT, looking at where the success stories are and where are we not being so successful, and how can we create opportunities of success within those areas that we're facing challenges, right? And how do we align our budget to enable us to generate those resources that are going to build out that success story? That's the same thing you're doing at the school level. They're doing it at the district level, you're doing it at the school level. But where I think the value for DLTs really lies, not just in creating the DCEP, but also in supporting SLTs. So if there are conflicts within the SLT, the first escalation point should be to the DLT, right? You should ask the DLT for support in helping that team to overcome whatever challenges it's making, whether that's through some form of mediation, whether that is helping them to understand the resources that are at hand, whether it is helping to facilitate conversations. That's where the DLT should be providing that support. So what am I essentially saying to you as presidents of presidents' councils, as CPAC? I think you have a very important role to play on your DLT, because you sit on your DLTs. I think you have a very important role to play on your DLT. You kind of know what schools are struggling. You kind of know where people are having some conflicts. You kind of know where people are just not quite getting it. You kind of know which SLTs are not in compliance because they don't have enough people. You know which SLTs are not adhering to the reg. That information you should be sharing with the DLT, and the DLT should be working to craft a response, an intervention, and resources to help those SLTs get back to a level of functionality that's going to work in favor of that school, right? And so Your role on the DLT should not be a silent partner, right? You're not sitting there as silent partners, letting everybody else talk around you, over you, beyond you. You should be involving yourselves in that conversation. And I'm going to share something with you that my grandmother used to say to me. And I always say this when I talk about my grandmother. She was the wisest and smartest woman I ever knew, who only had a 9th grade education. Okay? So what would she say to me? There is no such thing as a dumb question. If you don't know, ask the question. I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about. Can someone explain it to me so that I can understand it? You shouldn't be sitting there silent because you have a voice. You should be a very active and contributing member of that DLT because that's going to make you a more active and contributing member on your SLT. You're going to be empowering the presidents of your councils to be more active as members of their SLT. But if you don't understand something, don't let it slip by. Just say, hey, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you help me to understand this? There's no such thing as a dumb or stupid question. Every question is important. And if you think about the building blocks of education, it all begins with a question. And so you should be asking questions because that's how we learn. We ask the question, we get an answer, we learn. And then that should lead us to the next question. But you should never, ever be silent on your SLTs, on your SLTs or your DLTs, more importantly, your DLTs, because you're looking at how all the things that are happening in the schools are going to impact the district. So you will have this larger picture to see and to build from. That's what I would want to share with you about DLTs, in part because I do think you know a lot about DLTs. I don't want to bore you with things that you already know. What I want to do is encourage you to be ever more active participants on your DLTs, ever more active participants on your SLTs, and ever more active participants on your PAs and PTAs and your President's Council. So how do we do this? We increase our level of personal engagement in these entities, and we are bringing the engagement levels or the involvement of our constituent bases to these organizations, to these groups. Shirley, are there any questions?
I saw somebody's hands go up, but it went down. I don't see any questions in the chat. Any questions or comments regarding district leadership team? As president's councils, all of us is a mandatory member of the district leadership team. Any questions for Mr. Settle? Okay, Manhattan High Schools. Yep, Manhattan High Schools.
Good morning, everyone. I have one quick question that I may know the answer to. Sorry. Just want to know, with regards to SLT, is it just like a 1 hour allocated time, or we're able to continue if we have more questions and concerns, or we didn't conclude what we were discussing as a team, right? SLT is like everyone is an equal partner into the decision making for the school-wide, for students, everyone in the school side.
Yeah, I always err on the side that an SLT meeting should be allotted the amount of time necessary to craft the CEP. I'm not gonna say it's a set time of 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I think that decision must always be left up to the team itself, and it should be a decision that's made by the entire team, not just by 1 or 2 individuals on the team. That decision, once it's made, needs to be reflected in the bylaws so that we know when that team meets, where it meets, and for how long it meets. But I would definitely say that you, as a team, you need to figure out if you're meeting for 1 hour. Are you covering all the things that need to be covered for your SLT? So are you not only addressing the challenges, right? Assessing its success on what you've done, how you've set to overcome those challenges in the school. So if it's to increase literacy by, say, this year, an additional 15%. We want 15%. We want our students reading at a 15% higher reading level than when they started in September, right? So between January and February, you should have been assessing that, looking at, okay, do we have the data that shows that we are on the right track towards meeting that goal? Or do we need to go back to the drawing board and figure it out again, right? If you can do that in an hour, great. If you need to take more than an hour, then you should be taking more than an hour. But I can't sit here from where I sit to say that an SLT must meet X number of hours when they meet. I think that's a decision that has to be met by the team, but it should be done in a manner that's consistent with addressing the issues that need to be addressed at an SLT meeting. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shirley.
Thank you. So at this point, you can hold your questions. There's more, but Anthony, there's a question in the chat. We're going to move our agenda item along. We see at Office of School Enrollment is here with us, and we're going to give them the floor. I'm assuming, Ms. Thomas, you're a part of that team.
Yes, that is correct. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deja Thomas, and I lead the engagement and strategy work for the Office of Student Enrollment. I also have my colleague, Zai Green here, who is the Senior Director of Middle School Admissions, and we're going to be just giving a high-level overview of what's going on with admissions currently. So high school offers were released about a week ago, March 7th. So families, most families are going to get one offer. Families who applied and were eligible for Shazat, specialized high schools, LaGuardia, they may have multiple offers. Actually have the Senior Director of High School Admissions here, Kristen, as well. So Kristen, do you actually want to take it away for high school? Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Yeah, thanks, Deja. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen O'Neill, Senior Director of High School Admissions. So as Deja was starting to share, we did release all high school main round admissions offers last week on Thursday, March 7th. All 8th grade students who submitted applications received an offer to a high school for next year. And as Deja was saying, some students did receive multiple offers if they participated in specialized high school admissions, which means they took the Shazat or they auditioned for LaGuardia. So students who did receive multiple offers need to make their selection by April 5th and decide which school they would like to attend for next year. Other students who only received one offer, their offer is automatically accepted because every student needs a high school option for next year. And when offers were released, waitlists also opened. So students were automatically on the waitlist for any school they applied to that was more preferred to the school they received an offer to. And students are also able to add themselves to any waitlist of interest as soon as they're open. So we did see a lot of waitlist movement as soon as offers were released, and a lot of schools have already begun to actively use their waitlist to try to fill any remaining seats they have. One thing that was slight change this year were for 9th graders who participated in the high school admissions process. So any first-time 9th grader was also able to submit an application. And any student who received an offer for a new high school for next year for 10th grade, those offers, the students need to actively accept or decline the offer. So if a student does not accept their offer by June 14th, that is the date we have set for 10th grade offers, they will remain at their current high school for next year. And if they accept their offer, then they will be list noticed and put on register for that new high school for next year. So I think overall, the release of high school offers went very smoothly this year, and we're really happy with how it went. We're trying to keep up with all of the emails we're getting from families with questions. We've also started our series of family information sessions so that families can understand how they received the offer they got and how they can use the wait lists. So we're very happy with how everything went this year with high school offers.
Are there any questions about high school offers or admissions before we move on to middle school? Pamela?
Good morning.
I'm sorry. We're going to ask questions at the end. We want to make sure you do your presentation first because we have a tight agenda. So we're going to take questions at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Zai, do you want to take it away with middle school updates?
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, thank you to high school. We work closely together, and high school offers being released smoothly does bode well for middle school offers. So we have publicly announced middle school offers will be
Our board,
sorry, do you mind? Yeah, thank you. Middle school offers will be publicly released on April 3rd after school hours. At that point, waitlists will open as well. Every fifth grader on a DOE register will get an offer. Those offers are automatically accepted. There's nothing more that the student needs to do unless they want to explore other options, and then they can add themselves to waitlists. Much like high school, a student is automatically added to the wait list of any school they listed higher on their application than the choice they received. But if they, for example, received their first choice, they would not be on any other wait list. They would just have that first choice offer. I know the elementary school counselors are, are very good and work very well with their students. But of course, we are always here as well to support. Happy to take any questions.
That's the end of your presentation, information updates.
I mean, I can give some high-level updates of what's happening with the other admissions processes because I know that they're not on this call, just so folks are aware where we are with the overall admissions timeline. So kindergarten offers are slated to go out at the end of this month. I believe that date is March 27th or 28th. They are going out at the end of this month. For families who missed the kindergarten deadline, they can add themselves to waitlists right now. So waitlists are open, and then families will be able to see their waitlist positions once offers are released, and waitlist offers can start being made at that time. The 3K and pre-K application closed on March 1st, and those offers are slated to go out May 14th for pre-K and May 16th for 3K, respectively. Similar to kindergarten, for families who missed the application deadlines to apply to 3K and pre-K, waitlists are now open. Families can add themselves to waitlists on myschools.nyc, and similar to kindergarten as well. Once offers are released, at that point, waitlist offers can be extended from schools pending that they have seats available. Also, the application for upper grade gifted and talented, that'll be opening up later in April as well. And we'll have more updates and information closer to that time. But that's pretty much it with admissions. So happy to take questions.
I'm going to let Pamela go, but we have like at least 3 overall questions to ask on behalf of the entire city. But Pamela got, I think it was Pamela, right? You for high schools.
Right. So my question is for high school. Here on Staten Island, we had noticed that students were receiving double acceptances to one high school. So like, example, Tottenville, some kids got Institute for Science and Classic Institute acceptance. Is that a glitch, or was that considered specialized? Because it's not a specialized high school. So I'm not sure why some children were getting 2 acceptance. Like there are also children that got like acceptance to Tottenville Institute and then got accepted to Newdorf for something else. Is that a glitch? We're not, I'm getting.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a glitch in the system, but I would have to look at examples you had or look at my data to figure it out. What's possible is that every student only receives one offer through the high school application. So if a student received an offer to one program at Tottenville, but there are several admissions programs at a school like Tottenville. I believe Tottenville has 10 different admissions programs students can apply to. So some students will list multiple programs at that one school on their application. So it's possible that they received an offer to, let's say, the 5th choice from their application, which was a program at Tottenville, and they're on the wait list for other programs at that same high school. And they could have then received a waitlist offer to another program at the same high school. So that might be what you're seeing because there's no.
It's definitely they got accepted to 2 things when other children only got zoned and didn't get anything.
Okay, so that's not something that should have happened, and to my knowledge is nothing that happened. So if that did happen to a family, I wonder if you can maybe send me that family's information and I can look into it for you, because to my knowledge that hasn't happened and that's not the way it is supposed to work. So if a student received more than one offer, like on their offer letter through the main round, that is an issue, but I don't believe that happened. So I'm thinking it may be waitlist offers that happened right away, but I will be happy to look into that for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
District 2, Melissa.
Yes, hi. I just had some feedback from my district about the timing of, sorry, I'm in elementary school. So middle school acceptance emails or when they go live. Typically in the past, they've gone live around like 3 o'clock or right after when school lets out. And so the kids are all together and everybody wants to talk about their acceptance. There's happiness, there's tears, etc. So if your team could just kind of take a look at the timing on that. I understand maybe you wouldn't want to do it during the school day, but maybe a 5, 6, 7 o'clock sort of an evening hour could be considered, so that the kids can process it on their own and not sort of do it in that social setting. Be appreciated. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for that comment. We do actually think very hard about what is best for the children, what the best timing is. So thanks for that feedback. We think that some fifth graders have cell phones, et cetera, so we don't want to do it during the school day, because I do think if some kids find out and others don't, that's not good either emotionally or for the elementary school. We're also a little bit constrained because we want some time after school hours, but before kind of the workday ends, in case we need support from external partners. But anyway, balancing all of that, thank you for that feedback. We'll try to figure out really, the best time to release.
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Zai is saying. We often also hear from families during this time when offers go out. And so we want to be responsive as an office, and we can't do that if we release offers after the workday. A lot of families may call our call center, go to family welcome centers. And so those sites close at a given time. So that's something that is important to us as well, as they're also part of the Office of Student Enrollment. And we want to be responsive to families who may be reaching out as well.
Thank you. Could you go into more of the wait list process and how they're ranked on the wait list?
Sure. So wait lists for no matter what admissions process are essentially going to pick up where offers let off. So they're going to be ordered on the wait list by their priority group, by their rank, if it's a specific, high school program or middle school program that's screened. But the admissions criteria or the priority groups used is going to be the same way students are ordered on the wait list. So what an example looks like this for elementary school, let's say a family moved or missed a deadline or didn't submit an application for whatever reason, if they're zoned to that school, they're still going to have a zoned priority on the wait list. And let's say someone who is an in-district applicant, even if that zone child comes and adds themselves to the wait list in August, they're going to be ranked higher on the wait list than someone who has a lower priority group. And that logic is going to be true across admissions processes. The only difference what that looks like if a school has a screened or some sort of criteria is that component is also going to be considered as well. But essentially, waitlist pickup where offers drop off, and that's how students are ordered. And then if all things are true or equal, then they'll be ordered based off their random number on any given waitlist. And students do have different random numbers per school or program that they're waitlisted at, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, Zai, did I miss anything?
No, I think in general that obviously that answer is correct. I think I'll add that for high school waitlists, especially for screened programs, which I know is something that families, care about a lot, students will be ordered based on their screened admissions group, but by a new random number per waitlist. So if there's a screened program that is only able to extend offers to students in screened group 1, and then there are remaining screened admissions group 1 students on the waitlist, they will be at the top of the waitlist in random number order with every kid in screen group 1, followed by random number order for kids in screen group 2, down to group 3. And then when students add themselves to the wait list after they have opened, they will be in their screened group, but below every student who was automatically waitlisted. So that is the nuance of how screened waitlists work.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarity. There's a question in the chat. Why aren't there extended hours during these times? Adriana, you want to expand on that? I'm not sure unless you ladies understand that question.
I think, are you
It was
talking
regarding the
about
call
when
center.
offers go out?
Yeah, it was regarding the times of that your staff is available to take calls. If you know that you're going to have an influx or a larger than normal amount because it is the day that all of the students are receiving their letters, or all the students from certain grade bands are receiving their letters, logically, it just makes sense to me that we would have extended times because it's customer service essentially.
No,
right?
100% understand. There's not like a necessarily cute or pretty way to say this, but you know, we are still constrained budget wise to a certain extent. Like we sometimes it's just human capital. Folks have to go. And sometimes we may not always just be able to do that from just, you know, the constraints of budgeting. Like that's extra time, that's extra money, things of that sort. And we may not always just be able to do that as an organization or as an office. So it's not that we don't want to do that. Sometimes, you know, it just doesn't align or work out that way. But we will take that feedback and I can, you know, see if hopefully that's something that we can change in the future moving forward. But generally, it's just staying within the realms of people's work hours because folks have to do that and we have to get approval in order to do that.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other questions before we let our fabulous ladies leave? Okay, District 31.
Oh, good afternoon. I had some concerns with the middle school process. Some elementary schools recently got a packet from their zone middle school for like their parent articulation packet, and they're asking the parents to complete it by March 22nd or the bus school route. But yet the offer letters haven't gone out. So some are confused as what the process is.
Thank you for sharing that. I had not heard that. I will, I'll make some calls and kind of figure out what's going on there and try to align their timing with our offers. If you have any specific elementary schools that you know are doing this, you know, please let me know. But otherwise, I'll just kind of call around and see what's going on.
I could text it to you in the chat.
That would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? And ladies, if you could put your contact information in the chat for members, it would be very much appreciated. Last call. Okay, so we have District 8.
Hi, good morning. I just had a question. I know in our area of District 8, we had 2 middle schools that are both set up as zone schools. And close to the beginning of the registration period, we had parents pretty much coming in with enrollment letters for either school. Is there any way where something like that, or when there's a situation like that, there could be some kind of equity? So I know one parents would choose one school over another. You had some populations going to overwhelming in one school, or has that been fixed?
So are you talking about over-the-counter enrollment? So new students moving into the district and going to a welcome center and getting a school, or the admissions process? Do you have to know?
Pretty much, I guess the ones right after, because I know with the admissions process, if they choose the school, then they're already there. But it's anybody who's switching or who are coming in last minute.
Got it. So I think the process is if a family goes to a welcome center and they're maybe in a shared zone school and both of those schools do have seats, then it is really up to the family to choose which school they prefer. right, we don't kind of funnel them if they have kind of a right to go to either school. I think we let them pick, kind of like the admissions application process. They can rank the schools as needed. But if I guess can you put in the chat to me the two schools and what's going on, and I can maybe talk to the Welcome Center.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
All right, sure.
So thank you, Jai, Deja, Christian, for coming on. You don't have to leave. Think you appreciate answering our questions and talking about emissions. Usually this is always the time of year that, is excitement, but also frazzle too, for the family. So we appreciate it so much. We're going to move to our next agenda item. Here it is going to be, I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to hear from the Office of Food and Nutrition Services. We have on the platform right now the Chief of Staff, Nelson Quillis. Chris Jericho, he will join us later, and I didn't see Tracy, but I believe Tracy will be on the platform with Nelson as well. I'm going to give Nelson, I'm going to give you the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm joined by Tracy as well. She's the Executive Director of Operations for us. So today we just wanted to join to give a brief overview of OFNS and some things that are kind of coming down the pipe. We know we've been a hot topic lately in the news, so I'm just going to attempt to share my screen. One second. Sorry about that. Okay, can everybody see this? Hopefully the answer is yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Just waiting for this to load. All right. I don't know why it's giving me this view. Give me 1 second. Apologies on the awkward angle, folks. I'm just going to go ahead to be considerate of time. So today I just wanted to talk about, give a brief overview of our program. Like I mentioned earlier, our mission stays the same, and we want to equitably serve New York City students with healthy and delicious meals that enhance their educational experience, reflect their voices, and nourish them into adulthood. It's incredibly important to us. Just some fast facts about us. Currently, we have 35 menus that we offer. We have over 470 recipes. That number continues to grow daily as we test recipes. We service over 1,800 schools, and we're feeding about 900,000 meals a day. That includes breakfast, lunch, and after-school meals, such as snack and supper. Earlier, I mentioned student voice, and one of the things we're very proud to say is that every single new menu item that is implemented into our menu is student taste tested. We have a group of students come up to our headquarters and visit our test kitchen at least 3 times a week. Anywhere from 20 to 30 students will come and visit from a particular school, and they'll taste anywhere from 5 to 7 different items that we're thinking about putting onto our menu. At that time, they'll be given a grading sheet, and they'll be asked to just honestly grade and evaluate the items that they've tasted, and also to give back some constructive criticism if there is any. And then we'll allow the vendor an opportunity to view those notes and reformulate the product if that product didn't pass taste testing. And we'll give it a second opportunity to taste test and allow it to see what the students think on the second kind of reformulated option. And we do look for 70% success rate and 70% of approval rate when it comes to these items that we're testing. Just a few highlights from our menu item, or our breakfast menu items. We do offer fresh seasonal fruit daily. We have many local dairy items. And it's always going to consist of whole grains, low fat, high fiber, and limited sugar items. And we recently, last school year, got rid of sugary fruit juice drinks just because of the sugar content. Um, that's usually comes up if we still have juice available for any students with any type of diabetic needs. We do offer juice, so there is an accommodation to still offer it. We just don't offer it daily at breakfast service. Some of our lunch highlights, we do have our Meatless Mondays, which has been in place for many years. About 2 years ago, we instituted our plant-powered Fridays. Last school year, we removed all deli meats from our menu due to them being highly processed. We have many locally sourced products. Once again, just like breakfast, we offer fresh seasonal fruit and vegetables. Most of the time, they're highlighted on our salad bar. And we always offer multiple daily options. So if you just look at our menu very quickly, you'll always see a center of the plate item, but that is not the only item we're serving on that particular day. So we'll always have maybe a variety of anywhere between 3 to 5 different options available for students to try, just in case that main center of the plate item doesn't call their attention. They still have other items to choose from. And we also recently started identifying the items that are vegetarian versus vegan on our menus. And those are signified with a V and a VE. Just touching on our vegetables, salad bars have been a huge thing for us. We have salad bars in over 1,000 schools. Any school can have a salad bar, regardless of whether it's an elementary school, a high school, or a middle school. So any school that wants a salad bar that doesn't currently have one can absolutely request one, and we'll get one there. Um, it's just another opportunity for students to have vegetables, also be exposed to things that they might not necessarily see at home, and it's also unlimited, so it gives students an ability to go back and get more if they choose to have more. Just kind of touching base on our plant-powered Fridays and our overall kind of commitment to plant-forward recipes. We're constantly working on developing new plant-powered recipes. It's something that we're currently working with WITS. I'm sure many of you have heard of our Chef in Schools program, where it's essentially a program that we've partnered with WITS, where we have professional chefs go into our schools and give our cooks one-on-one training. And it could be a variety of different things, but menu execution and culinary skills is a big part of that. So we're very proud of that partnership. Just some menu nutritional standards. There's many standards that we have to follow when it comes to creating a menu and serving our menu. Just to name a few, first and foremost, it starts with the federal level. So we do have to follow the USDA guidelines as it pertains to the National School Breakfast Program and the National School Lunch Program. After that, then we have the New York City food standards that we need to follow. Then we have our own prohibited ingredient list that has over 100 different prohibited ingredients that we're not allowed to use. And then we have some OFNS self-implicated specifications that we kind of self-implement just to kind of go above and beyond. And a perfect example of that is our chicken tenders. They're never antibiotic introduced chicken, and it must be 51% whole grain breading. Halal is something that's fairly new. It's a program that started just a few years ago, but as of this week, we have 105 different schools offering a halal menu. Similar to any program that we offer, any school that is interested in having a halal menu, it just has to be simply identified to the school food service manager. We do advise the school community, well, we do advise administration to engage with the school community to make sure that this is absolutely something that the entire school community wants. Once that's been identified as a need and a want for that particular school, then we can go ahead. We work with imams and they'll certify the kitchen to be halal certified, and then we could begin serving a halal menu. Menu accommodations is a big thing when it comes up when we're speaking to parents. So food allergies absolutely is a big thing. Milk accommodations is a big thing. So we do offer special accommodations as it pertains to any type of food sensitive or food allergies. So our first step with that is we want to make sure that a student does have a 504 form on file in the nurse's office. And then we'll ask for a copy of that 504 form and we'll submit it to our menu management department and our nutritional, I should say our registered dietitian on staff will essentially create a menu plan for that particular student. They'll look at every single item that we have currently available in our product basket, and they'll try to build a meal plan for that particular student based on what we have available and what we can order on a daily basis. Same goes for any type of milk options. And lastly is our CEE program, our cafeteria enhancement experience. This is currently in about 174-ish of our schools right now. It's particularly gauged for middle schools and high schools. It is a kind of a revamping of the current traditional lunch service or meal service that we provide in a regular school. The big thing here is that it's self-service. So students are allowed to walk up to a line, take essentially what they want, and that's accompanied with the furniture in the cafeteria also being renovated. So it just allows students to get their food quicker, enjoy the environment, enjoy the experience of eating with friends, and just even if just enjoying that moment of being able to relax and not necessarily standing on a line waiting to be served. And that's currently where we stand on that. And that is also something that's kind of continuously happening on a weekly basis. So every now and then we'll have 1 or 2 schools implemented, so that number continues to grow. And the goal is to have that in every single middle school and high school. And that's it for my presentation. I'll go ahead and open the floor to questions or concerns or any suggestions that anybody might have.
All right, so we're going to start with the questions in the chat. First question is an individual school food vendor the same for all schools or districts or per school, per borough? Who makes the overall food vendor decision?
Great question. So each borough does have a different vendor. We have different vendors for different types of foods. So different vendors provide produce, different vendors provide frozen food, different vendors provide our dairy products. So it does vary. And those are all negotiated contracts done through our contracts department. So it varies depending on the borough. It varies depending on the neighborhood. So I don't know off the top of my head how many vendors we have, but we do have a few.
Shirley, if I can, this is Chris. How are you? Good morning, all. I just want to make sure folks understand that what Nelson's talking about is food that is brought to the school that we then prepare. We cook, we serve, we prepare all of our food based on the vendors that give us our food. They are not preparing the individual meals. They are not preparing the food. We are doing all of that with the 8,000 proud staff members that we have working for DC 37 and the New York City Public Schools.
Good morning, everybody. This is Tracy Cashin. And just to add to Chris and Nelson, it's important to note that our menus, for example, the elementary menus are the same regardless what borough you're in. So those are citywide menus. So our menus are created and they are citywide menus.
Thank you. So the next question is, where does the plant protein come from? Some of this food stuff is heavily processed, therefore not actually healthier.
Gracie, you want to take this one?
Yep. So our plant protein, we have various plant proteins. Our Friday's menus lean towards beans, but we also have some items such as the vegan nugget. And it's important to note that the Office of Food and Nutrition Services has very strict prohibited ingredients. So although it's a veggie nugget, and yes, any nugget is considered processed, the ingredients in that nugget go through strict adherence to meet our nutritional guidelines. So it's not necessarily the same nugget that you would find in retail because of not only the sodium and the sugar limitations, but also a list of other prohibited ingredients that you would find in retail supermarkets that you will not find in our products.
Thank you, Tracy. I'd also like to add, if it's okay, that we have to follow the National School Lunch Program meet alternate rules. So I encourage everyone to check out our website, check out the National School Lunch Program specifics and regulations. It's really exciting to learn all about that, but it also gives good context on why we have to serve certain things in the cafeteria, breakfast and for lunch.
Thank you. I believe it was explained in the presentation by Nelson, but the question is, what drink options do students have if they're lactose intolerant?
Yes, they have the soy and the lactose-free milk in coordination with the working with the school nurse and letting us know that that child needs that accommodation. And the school food service manager at that individual kitchen location will order that specifically for that child.
And we encourage everyone that has that kind of concern or needs that request granted to definitely let the principal and the teacher and eventually the kitchen know so we can accommodate the actual choice.
Thank you. And before I go to the hands raised, there's one more question in the chat. Okay, let me see. If there is a middle school co-located with an elementary school, are the middle school options available to the elementary school? And if not, how lunch for the younger ones are executed?
Yes, so that's a really good question because as we all know, we have a significant number of co-located schools, and there's a mix of middle school, high school, some elementary, etc. So absolutely, that's a really valid question that for that middle school, that they get those options of our staff is instructed to make sure that those additional options are available for those students. And if anyone does not see that happen, please just make sure that it's escalated so we can look into that immediately.
That's a great question, by the way.
Okay, and Adriana, our recording secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you. It was my question about the vendor for the vegan and vegetarian foodstuffs. I get that there are national standards that have to be followed, but food in the US is not great as across the board. So is the name of the vendor a secret? Is that confidential information? If not, that would be great if we could know where stuff is coming from. I was a vegan, a high carb, low fat vegan for years and years. I know that some of the stuff is not super duper healthy, right? So it would be good for parents to know, especially if their kids love it and they're interested and they want to have, they're not having Boca burgers at school, but maybe they can find something similar. Thank you.
So we can provide all information on the products that we have and what we purchase. That is not a secret. That is not something we hide at all. We would love to share, and anyone that's interested, we would love to share it with them. I do want to talk about the difference between the USDA regulations, the New York City Department of Health regulations, and the New York City Public Schools prohibited ingredient list. The New York City Department of Health and New York City Public Schools clearly exceeds all of the standards from the USDA. And you are right. Some of the food that is in the US system, not school system, is actually not great. And that's why we created the prohibited ingredient list. And we continue to add to that list to make sure we're getting the best food, or at least giving our students the right options that meet the nutritional needs of children their age.
Thank you. Randy, you have a question to ask?
Not like a question, more so I know that there's been like a lot of media coverage regarding the cuts to the school food menu. So I just wanted to see if you guys wanted an opportunity to just clarify any misinformation that's out there. So this way they get it from your mouth to their ears and nothing could be distorted.
I appreciate that question, by the way. That is very, very helpful for us to be able to have an opportunity to clarify some of that. So to make a longer story short, because I know we don't have much time here, there were budget cuts that happened in the system, but we were then given money to bring back the awesome options that children are asking for. Children were speaking about what they were missing on the menu. Children were speaking about specific items. So we got the opportunity to get additional federal revenue because our meal counts are up by 9%. That's about 60,000 more meals a day, meaning that we have more income coming in due to the revenue of those meals. So we listened quickly, we heard quickly, and we brought back several of the favorite options. The press has been all over the place. And I have to say, as the head of this office, and my team would agree, that a lot of times the press articles that are out there are not gathering all of the facts that are needed to really speak to what's happening. So there was recently something out on Friday that talked about we're only bringing back options in some schools and not other schools. All of our menus are public. All of our menus are out there. All of our menus are transparent enough for folks to take a look at, criticize, suggest whatever is needed to make sure we're meeting the needs of children in schools. All of these press articles, obviously, we read. We do provide some feedback to the press agency, but more importantly is that we listen to students and parents and school communities. So we'll continue to see what articles are out there. We'll continue to clarify what we needed, but we are bringing back awesome options like the chicken thigh. We're bringing back awesome options like the French toast sticks, etc. And we're even looking at future menus coming for May and June, July, August to bring back some of the other options. And we're already working on exciting recipes and menu options for September.
Thank you. So there's a question in the chat. Okay. So I guess this is adding on to the question before about how when you have co-located different grades, levels of schooling, elementary, middle school, then they're adding to the question, how is it executed when there's a charter high school with a elementary and middle school? How lunch look like? So I guess, yes. So they're adding charter school to the mix.
Right. Well, it's always going to depend on the building too, because not all charter schools participate with us. Some do not, and they have their own vendor and get their own program and get their own food delivered separately, which is not part of what we do. So it really varies by the individual school building. The New York City Public Schools, we are obviously the school food service provider for all those sites. So if there is a co-located charter school, depending on whether or not that charter school chooses us to be the food service provider, we will provide the same menu that we're offering for the public school that's within that building. Hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to thank Nelson, Tracy, Chris for coming on. I know some of you will still be on. The chancellor is here. We are going to move to our next agenda item, which we always look forward to hearing from our chancellor of New York City Public Schools, David C. Banks. You have the floor, sir. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi there. I think I'm on now. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so you didn't hear all that wonderful introduction, sir.
I did.
Okay. No, we can hear you. We can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone. We're all a few minutes late jumping on. You'll be seeing the rest of my team coming on in the next couple of minutes. We just did a press conference here at Tweed, something that we're going to be doing now every 2 weeks. We're going to be doing presser with all of the major press outlets from around the city, basically sharing content with them, good information, the good things that are going on in our schools today. Today's was really, a lot of it is designed just to let the press ask the questions that they want to ask. And, generally they want to ask about all of the negative things that are happening, right? Kids writing negative things in the bathroom, anti-Semitic language, racist language, in the bathroom at Beacon High School. We have to respond to that. The Post did, I thought, some really irresponsible work and writing about Origins High School, but elected officials who were, standing out in front of the building and saying this is a horrible place and have never, ever visited the school. Never. They just read what they read in the paper and then they take that and they run with it, which I think is irresponsible leadership. But these are the questions that get asked and we have to respond to them. But it was a wide range of questions. The press was very happy to have been invited and giving them an opportunity to to ask their questions. And I think the fact that we're now going to do it regularly is going to give us a chance to tell them more positive stuff around what's going on in our schools. You know, I liken it, Shirley, I liken it to when you were a classroom teacher. And I was guilty of this as a young teacher until I was taught to do it a different way. The kids that would act up, you would write their name on the board. I don't know if that ever happened to any of you, because you all were probably, you know, just angels in school and never had any issues or problems. But there were some kids who were acting up. And when they would act up, you'd write their name on the board. And if they'd act up again, you put a check next to it and then another check. And so sometimes little Michael had his name on the board with 20 checks next to it by the end of, by the end of the day. And what we didn't realize early on was that's exactly the wrong way to do it. Because what you're doing is you're giving the negative behavior what it wants, which is spotlight. All kids want to be seen. All kids want to be recognized. They all want to be lifted up and celebrated. And so when you write the child's name on the board, you are affirming negative behavior. Because the little boy or the little girl who does not engage in negative behavior, does their homework, comes in, respectful, does everything that you ask them to do, they never get their name on the board. Only the one who misbehaves got their name on the board. Think about that. So psychologically, you start to say, if I want to really be recognized, I have to act to be recognized, which is not what you want. Similarly, in our school system, we highlight the negative. Most of the questions are about what's wrong. I always say, you know, let's share some good news too. There's some really great things that happen every single day. And I'm just trying to orient people to think like that as well. We got to deal with the stuff that's broken and we got to fix it. But we also, a big way in which you help to fix it is by lifting people's spirits, by celebrating them also for the good things that they do. That's one of the reasons why sometimes teachers leave our profession, because they feel like they're never celebrated, they're never lifted up. The only thing we talk about is what's wrong. So it's just a constant reminder. We're going to be working more with the press to try to tell the positive stories of what's happening in our schools, even while we still have the responsibility of dealing with the other things that are challenges. So it's just something I think for us all to kind of keep in mind. So happy Women's History Month. We've got an event getting ready to kick off here shortly at Tweed. And our General Counsel, Liz Laddick, is our keynote speaker for that event. We've got kids performing from a couple of schools, including Talent Unlimited. And again, if you ever want to see, again, our schools operating top tier level, any of these events that we have here, they go out and they find schools. These kids come in here and they throw down. They perform at the highest level. Oh my goodness. So it's always inspiring and amazing to see these kids show up in the way that they do. So, so good stuff that's happening here. Ramadan Mubarak for those who are celebrating. You know, one of the challenges that we continue to face are what we are watching in the Middle East. And then, you know, all too often we've got too many adults in particular who are behaving badly in our schools. So you get schools around the city that want to not only protest, but they want to lead a walkout of the school because, you know, a particular teacher said something that they shouldn't have said. So these are all the issues we have to deal with. We're trying to meet the moment here in spite of all the challenges. We brought all the New York City school principals together yesterday and with their superintendents in a hybrid thing where we were able to do a full day of professional development around reinforcement of what our disciplinary code is, but even more importantly than that, how to have courageous conversations with our kids and our teachers in our schools to meet this moment. The way that we're going to deal with issues of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, racism is through education, not just through discipline and throwing kids out of school. You have to elevate the mind, and you elevate the mind and the consciousness through education and exposure. A lot of kids who are anti-Semitic don't know better. And so they say ridiculous things because they have no idea what the Jewish people have gone through in terms of not just the Holocaust, but other things of how they've been oppressed over the years. And yet you have issues of the day that are happening in the Middle East, where even people who are in support of the Jewish people for their history take exception to what the state of Israel is actually doing right now to the folks in Gaza. So these are all complicated issues. It's a lot of gray area that's not always so black and white. But this is where great educators step up and step into the void to try to help kids think critically and help kids understand that the complexities of life, very rarely black and white. If you only have to deal with issues of black and white that are very clear one way or the other, right or wrong, that's easy. Anybody can do that. But to be truly educated means you have the skills and the mindset to deal in the gray areas, to think critically, to ask the questions that have not already been posed yet, and to be informed. You know, many of you heard me say in the past that my dad taught me as a little boy that there are three kinds of people in the world. Some people who make things happen, other people who just watch what happens and they criticize the people who are actually in the arena doing the work, tell them what they're doing wrong, but they're actually not in there doing anything. Their job is just to tell you what you're doing wrong. And then the third kind of people who just wake up every day and go, hey, what happened? They don't even know what's going on. They're not even clear about anything. We have far too many people who don't even know what's going on. There's certainly no way. They're not even criticizing, and they're certainly not in the arena doing anything about it. They're just kind of out to lunch. And so as we are engaged in our work here at New York City Public Schools, it's not simply about reading and writing and arithmetic. It's about deep thinking. It's about critical thinking. It's about deep inquiry. At the end of the day, I want young people who graduate from our schools not simply to have a diploma, but I want them to have a deep mindset where they question everything, and they push, and they take their rightful place in the arena with the group of folks who said, we're here to make stuff happen. I have a lot of people, even as I sit in this place as chancellor, my team, we're trying to make stuff happen every single day. We have a whole lot of people who are not in the space at all, who their whole job is just to criticize what we do. That's what they see their role as being. I'm very appreciative of CPAC and what you do, because all of you are also in the arena. Everybody that's part of CPAC are people who are in the arena. You're not the chancellor, but you're playing your own roles in this space of how do we make our schools better? How do we make our city better by making our schools better and helping our kids in our schools? You're in the arena. So we are in it together. And I think if we work together, we have a better chance of ultimately being successful. So with that, Shirley, thank you. I want to take some questions from the folks who are here. We don't have a long time, but we certainly have time for a few questions.
Well, thank you for the introductions and the updates and sharing with us. And we hope we all continue the partnership and make New York City Public Schools better and better and better. And the work could only be done with all of us doing our share. And we appreciate your leadership and your positiveness and your passion for New York City Public Schools. And I am talking because I'm waiting to see hands. I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
I thought I saw a hand up
Nobody
somewhere.
had.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's that Veronica Clark has a hand up, I think.
Yes, good morning.
Oh, no, let's go in the order received.
Sorry, Shirley.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'm actually going to let you go first because I don't think you spoke. The other two did. So go ahead, Veronica. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And Shirley, I agree with you so much with the Chancellor. Thank you so much, Chancellor, for being here. Just something that I'm noticing happening. A lot of our elementary and junior high kids, I notice a lot of them now are coming to school with weapons because there's no scanning. And I know also we are still short of security, but that's something I just want to bring to your attention. That is happening frequently. And some of the kids you would hear, they say, like, for instance, I know of one that I dealt with, said the mother told him to walk with a box cutter because he gets home late. He goes home on the bus. So asking her, what are you teaching your child? She, in return, to say to me, I have to protect my child. This is a child in the 6th grade.
Yes.
And I've noticed, I'm seeing an uptick
with kids coming to school with weapons. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention to see if this is something we can tap into. So educate either the parents or the kids to stop it. As you know, there was one recently where one of our public school kids slash a charter school kid in the face on the bus, and that weapon was in the building, and then they went home with it. So I'm hoping that
No,
something can be done with that. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Clark. Thank you so much for that. Mark Ramperson, I think, is on. Mark, are you there, Mark?
Yeah, he just tuned in.
Yes, he's on.
Well, he's not responding.
Well, he just literally just logged in, so his mic might not be on yet.
Okay, well, we'll give him a chance, hopefully, if anybody's near him, to tell him to hurry up and get on. This question is a question that is his wheelhouse. But let me say this. We have seen this. We have seen a significant uptick in kids bringing weapons, and even at the middle school level, as you pointed out as well. And so it has been it's been a challenge, and it's for the exact reason of what that parent said. The kids are not bringing the weapons to hurt their classmates. Overwhelmingly, they're saying, I need some form of protection on my way to school and my way home from school. Kids are seeing acts of violence, people being jumped, all kinds of things that are happening, not on school grounds. These are blocks away from the school. This is even on the block or the neighborhood where the kids actually live. So to some degree, it's not connected to the school, but it's real nonetheless. And so parents have said, as that parent said, basically you can say whatever you want, but if somebody's going to jump my child or there's folks going to try to accost my child, I want them to have a fighting chance. And yes, I gave him the box cutter. So can you imagine how challenging that is for us? Right? It's not just the kids, it's the mama. Mama said, bring the box cutter. They're like, who are you? You're the teacher, you're the principal. My mother told me to carry the box cutter. Now what? So that's hard for us to fight against that. We've got to continue. And parents feel that way because of what they're watching and seeing happening in the streets. So we got our work cut out for us. We're going to continue to do our best to deal with this. Thank God we've not seen a significant upsurge in violence in schools. We always have, kids always fight and get into some form of confrontation. They're kids. But, you know, we don't have scanners at every single school. Ultimately, we're trying to get in place, and we think this is coming sooner rather than later, these non-evasive scanners, where you don't have to take everything out and feel like you got to do something like you do at the airport. We don't want kids going through all of that. We just want you to be able to walk in. But if you do have a weapon of some sort inappropriate, there's a monitoring system that's going to pick it up. And you almost don't even notice that it's even there. So you don't feel like you're walking into jail or something just to go to your first period class. So those technologies are still being developed. We think we're closer to getting some of that stuff. Ultimately, I would love to see that in every school. But that's what we're trying to do. And there's a lot of other efforts that we're making as well.
Thank you.
I don't think Mark ever joined. I think he,
he's on, but he probably stepped away.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm going to go with District 29, then Manhattan High Schools, then the recording secretary, and then we're going to answer that question in the chat by D31. So okay. Joanne?
Hi, good morning, Chancellor Banks.
Good morning.
I have a question. And maybe a solution. Is it any way, I'm going back years when we was in school and everything, when school safety came out, how the school safeties used to patrol the blocks and certain areas of the school, like drive around, and we used to call it a paddy wagon pickup, where kids was like cutting and stuff like that. But they also was able to diffuse any possible fights or anything that was going on in the side blocks, or anything on the way to the kid taking the bus home because they missed the special that was in front of the school. Is there any way that we could go back to those old days, since we're going back to old ways of reading? Like, we need to bring back some of the other safety things that we used to have in place that kind of help defuse some problems.
I'm putting an all-out alert for Mark Ramperson. Anybody has Mark Ramperson in view, tell them all of these questions are safety questions. And we're looking for Mark. If not, I'm going to have to call on Dr. Kara Ahmed to respond to these questions. But let me say this. We have school safety is really important, but they're all part of a union. And a lot of their rules that they have don't allow them to like go blocks away from the school. You know, there's some places and some principals who have a relationship where folks will do it for that principal. You know, there was the legendary principal of Boys and Girls High School, Frank Mickens, who had probably the best security plan of any principal in New York City. And he would deploy his people for blocks around the school, ensuring everybody's safety. But by rule and regulation, the school safety agents are not, they're not actually supposed to do that, because they have their own unions that say, what if something happens 2 blocks from the school and I'm out there following the principal and going to deal with something? I'm actually not covered for that. So if I get hurt, now you have a lawsuit on your hands. So it's all these other kinds of issues. That's why I keep saying it is, in many ways, it is the voices of the community that have to be engaged here. When we say it's the village that raises the child, that is absolutely true. So let me say this. I would encourage everybody in CPAC, this is something you could do, I think, is a clear thing, to get every CPAC member, parent coordinators, SLT teams, just getting the word out that folks should have at least one representative who goes to the local precinct council meetings. Every month, the commanding officer of the local precinct that covers any of these schools has a community meeting. And there's some communities where it is absolutely packed. And there's some communities where there's 5 people in there. And we have to do better than that. And we can have representatives who are there. Because when you tell them at, you know, a certain school, like these are some of the issues that we are seeing as community members, we need to have police coverage for those blocks circling a specific school. They will do that. They will absolutely do it. And they will do it more if it's coming from parents, if it's organized, right? So sometimes it's just a one person here or one person there, you might not get it. But if it's an organized group that's coming in there and they show up every month, they will do that. And if they don't, that's the kind of thing you let us know. So right. if you're suggesting that they don't do it, we need to know that. That would be good. So Ms. Cummings, you're saying that
I can tell you, I can give you an example. We had a big problem last year, but right now, Burger King on American Springfield is closed. You know the area. So that was one of the hubs where all the schools is meeting up. And we had a big problem out there. We had a town hall meeting with local police officers and everybody in the community, stakeholders, and everything came out to this meeting. And it was said that if law enforcement step in, because law enforcement was there, if they step in, students would be arrested. So they were telling the schools and parents advocates that was out there that we had to help diffuse the situation, because if they step in, then students would be arrested. I have an email where I had parents went out there say they're not going back out there. It's crazy. Elderly people getting cursed out by the students. It was a mess. But right now, Burger King is shut down and they're supposed to be rebuilding it. But that's a huge issue in that area.
Yep.
So
So
I
let
could
me
definitely.
I think we have a Mark.
I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. Let me take control here. So Mark is presenting right after us about safety.
Oh,
but
okay.
I want other people who don't have safety questions. We'll save them towards the end. Because he can go run right into his segment, answering those questions, because there are non-safety questions here, and I want to make sure those are answered. So Manhattan High Schools, I know.
Let me say this, Shirley.
Ahead,
let me say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just happy that you are in charge, and it's wonderful when you know that somebody is in charge who can take the lead and bring order to the place. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Somebody is in charge.
Thank you. I have a very excellent support system, all my membership, along with my co-chair. So
you in charge, Shirley.
Stop it. So Manhattan High Schools, do you have a safety question? Is a non-safety question? Go ahead. You have the floor.
Oh, I don't have a safety question. I just had a
comment.
comment.
That's exactly a comment. Go ahead. I want you to speak.
Okay, thank you so much, Shirley. I have a comment with regards to a proposed merger happening on March 20th. And since I am the Manhattan High School President's Council president, I wanted just to bring it up to your attention if you haven't already heard about it. It's going to be Knoll Middle School in Park West campus that already has 6 high schools, including a District 75 school that goes from up to 22 years old, and also have a Ryan Medical Center, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm encouraging everyone to please join and raise your concerns because I'm getting a lot of feedback, and I'm like, please join the PAP meeting March 20th in person, send emails to the PAP and why this shouldn't happen. That's why these proposals shouldn't happen, especially because we have young adult kids and a lot more concerns. And also to thank you so much for all the wonderful work that you're been doing, and including the New York City Read. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And when I was teasing Shirley about being in charge, I was only messing around on the margins a little bit. What I meant by saying that was it connects very much to what I mean when I talk about mayoral control or mayoral accountability of schools. So as you know, that's a big open question right now. And I think we need to put it to rest. I believe very deeply in holding somebody responsible. That somebody, lots of people have lots of opinions and lots of views, but at the end of the day, you have to have somebody has to be able to take charge. And this is the biggest school system in the world. And I don't know what it looks like if you don't have somebody in charge. And the mayor has appointed me to that role. I do everything I can to engage and to listen. And I think that in the time that we have been here, that we have made the case that the mayor ought to be able to have continued access to be able to be held accountable for the schools. There is no perfect system, because you got to remember, right? Not all parents agree with each other. The very first question was about somebody bringing a weapon to school. One parent says, I think that's irresponsible. You should never teach your children that. And another parent said, be quiet. Don't tell me how to raise my kids. If I think I need to give them a weapon to be safe, that's what they're going to do. So those are two different views. But at the end of the day, somebody has to say, okay, as Shirley did, okay, I have to take charge here and bring order. That's what I try to do as chancellor. I can't imagine what the system would look like if you did not have at least somebody who you can go to take the lead. And then everybody is in charge, which means nobody's really in charge. When you have that, you have no shot of an NYC Reads. You have no idea what it would look like to onboard 35,000 migrant students who come here. You know how many districts would say, we don't even want any migrant kids in our district. So no, we're not taking anybody. Go over there, right? I mean, everybody's then left to kind of do their own thing. That is a recipe for disaster as far as I'm concerned. And so I think for those who would agree, I would say make sure that you're raising your voices. You're making sure that your electeds are aware, particularly your state electeds. If you disagree and you think, no, the mayor should not have accountability, make sure that they're aware of that. I'm just making you clear about where I stand, and very clear the fact that if the mayor does not have control, then that means that folks are saying we don't appreciate what this administration is doing. We don't think they respect parents. I won't be here, and I would have no interest in even continuing to serve as a figurehead. I came here to try to do a job. In a little more than 2 years, we are doing that job. We still have a long way to go. But if they tie one hand behind my back and say, now go try to do the job, I have no interest in doing that. And so that would basically be my exit strategy out of here. I came here to help these kids and to help these schools. And we are leaning in. We got a great team, and we're engaging everybody to do that. Last word I want to say, because I do have to get ready to jump, is under this administration, one thing which I don't talk about a lot, but I want every parent here to also know this, right? We expanded our Save for College program with the NYC Kids Rise. And this was designed to ensure citywide access to college savings accounts for students in kindergarten through second grade. And we currently have, watch this, over $30 million allocated across 210,000 accounts already. It's incredible. Every single K-2 public school student can participate in the Save for College program with NYC Kids Rise, which includes the creation of an NYC scholarship account. That account starts with an automatic $100 from the city on their behalf. So all you have to do is to activate your account at nyckidsrise.org /activate. Okay? nyckidsrise.org /activate. You do that as a parent, and your child is in K-2, you automatically have your bank account that's already set up. It starts out with $100 that's already in it. And then we encourage kids and families and community members to contribute. And all the research shows us that when you do that, that simple act of activating that and your child knowing that they now have an active account that's being used for them, for their future and for their college career, it makes all the difference in the world. It gets them even more focused on their future. So please, let's take advantage of it. Those dollars are already there for your child. It's there, but you have to activate it by going on and register. So Shirley, you and your team, please help spread the word for parents through CPAC about this. I know many of your folks have kids in the older grades, but they also are connected. Some of them have kids in high schools and they have kids in elementary school as well, and the young ones, our babies. So let's do everything we can to promote that. Shirley, I'm sorry that I've got to run, and I know members of my team, a couple who will be able to stay on for a few more minutes. But after that, we've got a Women's History Month celebration that's getting ready to kick off shortly here at Tweed. But it's always a pleasure to join you and your folks.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to have 3 more questions for your team, and then I'm going to start off with the questions for Mark after these 3 questions. And I'm going to use the one in the chat first, because can we have schools removed as early voting sites, as this is affecting our students from how they have lunch to safety in the schools? Now, see, it ends up being a safety question at the end.
I think Kevin, hi Shirley, sorry. I think Kevin just hopped on for this one.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, Shirley. This is Kevin. I am not at a computer at a desk right now, so forgive, I don't have the camera on. But that is one of the things we've been looking at since the last meeting and in conversation with the Board of Elections. I don't have a new update to share, but what I can say is we'll do everything we can to maintain as normal as a school environment as possible, but understanding we are obligated under law to allow for early voting to take place within our schools. Understanding that we work with each individual school to make accommodations to support. And so we have aspirations in support of the question to have the least disruptions to our school environments as possible, but we also have an obligation to follow the law. So we're looking to thread that needle, and we'll come back to you with updates within the coming weeks. But as of now, we're not looking to relocate any schools within this current cycle.
Thank you so much for that. District 2, I know, Adriana, you've been patient. District 2, you had your hand up. Was your question answered?
No, sorry, I just put it in the chat too. It was just ensuring that the chancellor is going to reschedule the town hall that was canceled due to snow with the district.
Awesome, thank you. This in the chat, and I'm gonna feel free, the chancellor's team to answer some of those questions in the chat. Adriana, you have the floor.
Sorry, Shirley, if I may, just on the District 2 question, yes, the FACE team will work with the council to identify a mutually convenient date, of course.
Thank you so much. Adriana.
Thank you. And hi, good morning, everyone. I think that this question is going to be best answered by DC Weisberg, who I think is still here, but I will defer to the cabinet members to decide who's going to take it. Over the last few months, I've sought understanding as to the School Construction Authority and New York City Public Schools' rationale for no longer identifying 77% of the seats in the capital plan according to district, borough, grade level. This is according to information that's been released by both New York City Public Schools and SCA, the School Construction Authority. Specifically, that from now on, projects will be officially listed in the plan following identification of a suitable site and commencement of the school's facility design process. As I and many others have said before, this is an unprecedented lack of transparency that is eroding public trust and is a major departure from how this information has been shared previously. Last month, Cora Liu from SCA explained that this removal of transparency is a result of their need, so SCA's need, to, and I quote, adjust their planning framework to support New York City Public Schools' overall class size implementation plan. So based on all of that and based on the information that's been shared over the past few months at CPAC and in other locations, what I'm trying to understand, and if I can get an answer to this, I promise that I will try to stop asking about it. Can someone explain to me what class size implementation has to do with this massive and unprecedented reduction in transparency?
Adriana, I think Deputy Chancellor Weisberg is no longer on this call with us. I just took a look, as well as Emma Vadera. So you can send the question over and we will follow up with you.
Okay, I think you guys received it in like October, November, December. I'll send it again. Thank you.
Okay, if we already have it, we'll look for it.
No, I'm going to ask Adriana to put it in the chat, please, because it's not just her asking that question. It is a question that's been asked across the city about, the transparency issue in regards to that and some of the data, including the Blue Book. So just put that in the chat. Chief Represent, the first question, safety question was that was asked by District 17 is
Shirley,
about
we're not gonna warm up. You're not gonna even invite me in the room.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't even
no,
say
hold
hello
on.
to the people. You just
No,
gonna just
listen.
go.
See, no, you're absolutely right because I'm looking at the time and I don't want you short. So here we go. Our Chief of Safety and Prevention Partnership, the Department of Office of Student and Youth Development. We have Chief Mark Represent, who's been doing an awesome job,
Did she say
and he
awful?
has been. Listen, you haven't done no awful job. So awesome job. And actually, no, he's been amazing. He's a very good partner. He's very engaged with the parents. He answers questions, and we always like to have him here because he could always send someone else, but he comes himself and answer the questions and explain what is he be doing. And he understands the communities that we live in. He's also a product of public schools. So we having here, he is doing a diligent job of keeping schools safe and not only engaging the New York City public school stakeholders, but also the community stakeholders like the police department and school safety agents and et cetera, traffic, all working together to make sure our scholars and our families are safe. So welcome to this platform.
Yep.
As always, we
Thank
have
you.
Chief Mark Represent here.
Yep,
Now I can
so-
jump in, or do you want to do your presentation first and then ask the questions?
This is Women's History Month. Can I just say hello to all the women on? Can I do that, Shirley?
Yes,
Since
you can.
I'm missing the celebration outside with the chancellor, I'm taking the time to stay here with all the beautiful women here. Just happy Women's History Month. So if you guys hear music in the background, that's because outside of my office is where the celebration is taking place. But I'm gonna ask you guys to jump right in. One of the things I am gonna do is go on mute and then come off when I answer your question, so you don't have to hear all the background noise. Can you guys hear the music now?
Of course we do. Thank
Yeah,
you.
let me go to mute and then let you ask the question, then I'll come off. Okay?
Yep,
All right.
absolutely. So, Chief Represent, who runs the world?
Women run the world? If
Yes.
that was a trick question, I just want to let you know that I'm clear on that. Women run the world. If you want me to get a T-shirt that says that, I'll be more than happy to do so. But yes, I am clear who runs the world.
Thank you so much for that. So seriously, the first question that was asked to the chancellor was about safety. And I'm just going to summarize it. It was about an increasing of scholars, students bringing weapons to school. And that increasing amount is because parents are supplying the weapons. They are very aware that their child is coming to school because it's not about their safety in the building, but to and for. I know we had these conversations before. Can you just touch on it? And then there's one more question before you can jump into your wonderful presentation.
Yeah, so first of all, let me apologize. I couldn't come off mute before. So I did hear y'all calling me. I just couldn't come off, so I apologize for that technology. I am concerned by the number of weapons that young people are possessing as they transition to and from school, and in some cases in school. One of the things that I am proud of is the relationships that we've established with young people where they're saying something when they see something and adults are doing something in that order, right? They see something, they say something, and the adults are doing something. We had a young person as early as 8 years old bring a firearm to school the other day, right? Shame, shame on everybody who gave access to this young person to a firearm. An 8-year-old with a firearm. I don't even know if an 8-year-old can lift a firearm, but this 8-year-old possessed a firearm in New York City Public School, and immediately parents were contacted. In an 8-year-old having access to a gun can't mean anything but lead to the family overall. So it's very concerning. It's super concerning to hear parents say that they feel unsafe as the young people travel to and from. And the chancellor mentioned the importance of going to community board meetings and having conversations around where it is that kids are feeling unsafe. We talk about traveling to and from school. Some of our kids travel 5 boroughs to get to schools, right? Especially our high school students. But to hear parents who are not educated about these items being illegal in our city and illegal in our school system, right? They're giving these items to their kids only to have them arrested, juvenile report, summons, or otherwise, right? So you're doing an injustice to your child, especially for their future, when you give them these items that they end up getting arrested for in New York City public schools or transitioning on mass transit. So there should be, could be, and we will appreciate any opportunity to greet parents and talk to them, educate them about the importance of understanding what damage this does to young people when they get caught with these weapons, right? Weapons and or dangerous instruments. Even cases where parents have given pepper spray to kids and they've released it as a joke in school. Well, there's nothing funny about that if your classmate has asthma or a teacher has asthma or others, right? Because you wanted to, explore what this item is that your parent gave you, right? All too many times we are hearing directly from parents when the school is administering discipline because a child is in possession of a weapon, to hear a parent say, "I gave it to them." I gave it to them. While we understand that you want to keep your children safe, right? There are other ways by which we do that, right? And that is the conversations with our local precincts, the conversations with our community-based organizations that are doing the work outside of the schools, the conversations that we're having in schools around, pairing up partners, staying on the safe passage corridor. Those are the ways by which we combat some of what we're seeing throughout our city. So it is disturbing to hear that this is what's happening. And we appreciate any opportunity to come to your meetings with parents to talk about, the effects of young people possessing these items.
Thank you so much. And then District 29 brought about the, students cutting, uh, hanging, fights in the communities. She asked like maybe a solution is the paddy wagon. And the chancellor said that the principal in the schools can go so far away from the school campus, the coverage of the schools, they only could go so far away. And then he gave some responsible, responses to have other communities and help to pitch in to make the surrounding areas around the school safe. And she brought up in District 29 on Springfield Boulevard and Merrick, there's a Burger King there, and is right now is temporary shut down. And part of the reason is because of kids cutting or kids are fighting, they have weapons, making it the elderly community members don't want to even walk anywhere on that block. And Joanne, could you just articulate a little bit better your question, please, for Mark?
So with that being said, we did reach out to different stakeholders. We did have meetings. It's just a matter of the safety of these kids, so the kids can get home safe, because you have some kids that don't want to be a part of what's going on, but at the end of the day, this is one of the major hubs in Queens where gatherings has been taking place. And this is not something new. That's been going on for years. But years ago, we used to have the paddy wagon that used to chase the students away, and they went and congregate there. They would make them get on a bus or leave the area, so it wasn't so bad. But now you have no one wants to say nothing really to the kids, and you have different stakeholders in the community that are stepping up to take part in trying to chase the kids away or find something for the kids to do. But then you have some students that are already rude and disrespectful to the elderlies and so on and so forth. And I even have an email from one of my former presidents last year. She told me she loved me to death, but don't ever send her out there again because she's never going back there again. Because what happened? And when we speak to law enforcement and law enforcement is out there, the police department, they said if they intervene, they're going to start arresting the students. So the schools and the stakeholders in the community don't want to see the young people arrested. So they try to control the situation, but the cops are there, but they're going to arrest the students if anything. So like, what do you do in the essence of that? Like, and that's a big safety issue. And you have like 3 or 4 high schools coming together. So just imagine that big crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. And so is this,
I'm sorry, Mark, I'm going to add to it. So, because it's a gathering because there's a, Queens has a transportation desert. So that spot has multiple bus lines right there. So for them to travel, but this is not only there, this is a pocket across the city where there's where there's a hub and multiple, they pick certain locations and they gather to hang out. And this is across the city. Every borough has these different locations and there's different parts of Queens is the same thing that they gather from different high schools or from the other schools. And yeah, so you get the picture.
So yeah, and I'm first of all, I'm well aware of these transportation hubs, right? And they exist in a different place in all of our respective boroughs, right? In Brooklyn, there are 2 or 3 locations where all of the schools meet. Queens, obviously, there are 2 locations, one on Springfield and one on over here at Springfield. I mean Springfield and Merritt, and one is on Hillside, which is a major transportation hub, right? And so some of the things that we've done at some of those other locations are the things that we can do here as well, right? We continue to talk about this village, right? We heard from our grandparents and our ancestors about a village and everybody having a responsibility. But the interesting thing is the responsibility continues to be that of the school. Right? Continue. What schools? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But as the chancellor says, the school has a start and end jurisdiction, right? So principals are not police officers, deans, and so forth, but they do take the initiative to go down to those respective areas and they push their kids. And when the kids see them, they respectfully start to get on buses and leave, right? But they know the kids that they know. And some of those schools are a little further away than some of the closer schools that walk out and dismiss their kids. But then others, I don't know your kids. So you have schools where the kids are just not as respectful as their parents expect them to be when they're talking to adults who are just trying to keep them safe, right? Because they have a different interest. But to you, I say this. I wouldn't give up on the conversation with utilizing the multi-agency response. We can use DYCD, right? They have violence interrupters. They have credible messengers who are community-based organizations that are out there, and they will help usher kids along. And they have a way by which they do that because they're from the very communities that they're servicing. The NYPD should be out there, and it doesn't have to be the precinct enforcement. They can send their community affairs officers out there. These are the ones that while they're in uniform, they have polo shirts and they have a more extensive training in dealing with communities. So they have a different touch. Our YCO, the youth coordination officers, these are youth officers who work in schools on a daily basis. So they can help us to usher young people along. And one of the things that we found at one of the Brooklyn sites is more buses. When kids are dismissing, if you have more buses on the route to get them moving during that time, it's easier to get them on buses and get them transitioned out of the location. So I would be more than happy to connect with you, Ms. Cummings, on how we can help to enforce supports in that area. I'll have the Borough Safety Director convene a meeting at one of the schools in the area. You can bring some of the community people to come out and talk about some of the concerns that they have, and then we can join forces and get the respective schools out there to help push kids along, especially as the weather becomes nicer.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, thank you. So we're going, Mark, you have the floor to speak on your I having language issue this morning. I apologize.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
To speak on why we asked you to come on. We got, besides, we talk about a little bit about safety updates, but we also about some of the regs that regarding safety. And I'm going to give the floor to you, and you lead this conversation for us now.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Shirley. I'm going to talk about one regulation in particular. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
great, great. Yeah, Shirley, I'm gonna give you a timeout for the rest of the day because you
That's
just
okay. Yes,
not
yes.
doing all right today. So I don't know why it's showing up on this screen. So if I look the opposite way, just know I'm looking at the presentation. I apologize. This particular regulation, which is Regulation 412, I wanted to talk about this one first because this is the regulation that has already been voted on by the PEP and is currently up on our site, and principals are learning about the different changes that we made to this regulation. And I wanted you guys to have an opportunity because this is the regulation that's about safety, safety in our respective schools. So I want to go over Chancellor's Regulation 412. I'm going to be talking a little fast because I want to leave time for questions. And while this is a long deck, I'm gonna kind of keep it short and abbreviate some of the stuff. I hate when people present and they read to you. I don't like to read to you, so then I'm gonna take some shortcuts in my sharing out. So I hope that's okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the updated section and some of the incident reporting that's outlined in this respective regulation. All right. So this regulation, the Chancellor regulation, sets forth the responsibility of our school staff and our school safety agents to maintain safety and security in school. Some of the highlights. It highlights the protocols for vouchering contraband, as well as it outlines procedures for the NYPD, the reporting of incidents when our external agency partners come into our schools, such as the NYPD or EMS or FDNY, on the school's responsibility of what they need to do to ensure parents are informed and students are treated properly. So the last time that this regulation was even looked at was in 2006. That's 15 years ago before we even touched this regulation. So we saw it fitting to update the regulation to ensure that we have increased protections for our kids. Needless to say that this regulation is super, super outdated. In this section of the regulation, and I'm going to leave it up there so that you guys can kind of see it for yourselves and you can read through. Okay, there's the music. Kind of read through on your own. So it sets forth the respective roles of our school safety agents, clarifying that the agent's role is really the visitor control procedure, search and seizure. They do scanning in our schools. These are the things that our schools don't do, but we're constantly asking for these respective additional supports. We wanted to outline that this is clearly a school safety agent responsibility, and it's not a school staff responsibility. We used greater language to remind our school staff that school safety agents are not responsible for school discipline or incidents that can lead to discipline. That these, hang on, somebody just opened the door. Yeah, I'm sorry. That incidents that lead to discipline, the agents are only there to deal with incidents that raise to the level of a possible crime being committed in the school. It really outlines the roles and reiterates that we don't want SSAs going to classrooms to deal with classroom management issues. We want them to only deal with the big ticket items. We also took the liberty to remind our schools the importance of having a building response team to deal with actual emergencies that occur, where we have staff that hold us down until our first responders arrive at the school. In this particular section, we discuss when 911 is called, the procedures that the schools must follow, including the contacting of parents before they call 911. It's super important, especially for those real non-criminal incidents, if we're dialing 911 to get EMS or otherwise, that we're keeping parents well informed about those times. Unfortunately, we do have incidents where, like I shared with you, a young person may come into school with a firearm. That is not the area where a school is going to address an issue. That's where 911 is going to be called, and they are going to come in and deal with things accordingly, according to the penal code. It's also the section where we saw fitting to update information when a student is transported to the hospital, what the school's responsibility is to go with the student and act in local parentis until the parent should arrive. In this section, I mean, there's also a section in the regulation where we updated the importance of our schools utilizing the only state recognized system of record, which is our ORS report. This is the only place where incidents in schools can be reported is in our ORS reporting system. Some of the work that we've done is we've done some enhancements to our ORS reporting to make it easier and streamline the process for schools to utilize. We've outlined and reiterated the importance of the responsibility of notifying our emergency information center of incidents that are occurring in our school, especially immediately when NYPD or FDNY or EMS are notified. And we again increased the language of the school's responsibility to notify the parent. One of the other important things that we had to remind our schools is the importance of submitting witness statements in cases where young people are alleging harm in a school. In this section, we outline the different situations and when notifications are required. For instance, discussion of different types of matters, such as criminal and non-criminal. Who are we calling? Who are we notifying? The principals are being reminded in this respect that there's a senior field counsel that they can reach out to. There's a borough safety director who they can call if they have questions around criminal incidents in schools and non-criminal incidents where the NYPD may respond and think that they sort of have jurisdiction in the school when in fact they don't. We also reminded our schools that they are not alone in this space and that they must make certain notifications in the event that there is, in fact, an incident that transpires in the school, giving them clarification that what's imminent danger and what is not imminent danger. So when the police come in and they want to interview a student or arrest a student for an incident that transpired, how we respond in this space. Reminding folks that we have an obligation of protecting student information and also protecting our students from sort of arrest, right? Because schools are not places where we want to have police officers respond to arrest. And we updated this particular section for when in fact a student is being arrested, reminding the principal about their notifications, reminding the principal that they do have a voice in this space, reminding principals of their obligation to ask questions. If it's a non-school related incident and an arrest has taken place in a school, we provided principals a link in this regulation to Police Department Patrol Guide Procedure 21517 that speaks to the conditions by which a police officer can come to school and take an arrest for a non-school related incident. But for those school related incidents, we have to be able to articulate exigent circumstances. So there are conditions by which an arrest can take place in a school without giving the principal the opportunity to take certain steps, and that's when imminent danger applies. If something really horrible happens into our schools, God forbid, the NYPD comes in and takes swift action, such as the case in 2017 where we had a student kill another student in the school. They're not going to stop and ask for questions then. They are going to look for an aggressor and they're going to take the young person out of the school immediately. But those are few and far between, and I would go on to say almost non existent. So I am happy to say that the schools have established pretty good relationships with their local precincts. And when an officer comes into the school and they're overzealous in that process, we've added language in here to remind schools of the steps that they can take when an officer is a little out of line. We are reminding officers the non-school related incidents that occur outside and they're coming to a school to make an arrest and it doesn't fall within the parameters of the patrol guide procedure, that they can make those arrests, and we're encouraging them to make those arrests off school grounds after school hours so that we're not directly involved. And in this section, we also made sure that principals are reminded about the importance of notifying their superintendent promptly. New provisions in place for Miranda warnings that have to be read to students before they're arrested. And if a young person speaks another language, that warning is read to them in the language of what which they understand. We put greater emphasis in place for students with disabilities, and there is a caring, supporting adult who is apprising a student of all of their rights in this play in this in students with disabilities of their rights in the event that an arrest should occur. Those are really few and far between. The NYPD usually works with the school community, and they make every effort to ensure that a student who is not understanding the nature of the crime committed on their by them, what these next steps are, and they're doing that with a delicate touch, if that makes sense. All right. The questioning of students. So when a student is questioned, staff person has to be present when this happens. We have to make parent notification. We have to give parent every opportunity to come to the school if, in fact, a young person is questioned for an act where the school called the police in. I want to stick with that first. So if a school staff person calls the police in for a crime that's committed in the school, that presents major interruption to the school community. The school has to make sure that they notify the parent in a timely fashion before the young person is interviewed, and give the parent an opportunity to come up to the school before that questioning can take place. And if the parent agrees to allow that questioning to take place, a school staff person must remain with that student the entire time during the questioning. And if um, the adult who is involved in the incident can't be in the room when the line of question is taking place. Just to give you an example, I want to indicate again that we added a provision in place to make sure that the Miranda warnings are read to the student, and they call him suspect. I don't like that in this presentation. I'll make sure that changes. For the investigative agencies that's questioning and the parents is not present, we need to make sure that it in fact is the case. If an arrest has taken place, that kids are granted their Miranda warnings. In place. So the vouchering of contraband. Schools are confiscating items all the time. As we shared at the top of this conversation, that parents are giving kids weapons. We added some provisions in this regulation to remind schools that under no condition do they keep possession of any weapon of any kind. I don't care how small the knife is. Those items, they remain in the care of the NYPD School Safety Division. They have the ability to voucher those items. Under no circumstances do these things remain in the care of the school. We removed any language about cell phones, right, because it's outdated in the regulation that talks about cell phones. There is a whole regulation that speaks about cell phones on its own. I believe it's A413, if I'm not mistaken. So we took the language out of this that spoke to cell phones in schools. And then we reminded schools around student information and the importance of maintaining and securing student information. And we talked to them about the times by which they're able to do that, and that's during a health and safety emergency. I'm not sure when my screen just went dark, but that is sort of the end of that presentation on that regulation. Talking super fast because I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. And I know that you slated a half hour or 20 minutes for me to speak. So I'm going to open up the floor now and allow you to ask questions on the regulation. Thank you.
Thank you. So Chief Rampersant, do you know that when you walk into a space or in a room that you light it up and you bring a smile to my face?
Listen, let me write that down. Can you say that again so I could record this? Can I hit the record button? Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I aim to do exactly that for everybody in our New York City public school system to the best that I can. So thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you. That's the man. That's why you're the man. Seriously, anybody has questions, additional questions? I know that yeah, I'm still here. I was gonna go to you, Adriana. You have a question?
Yes, thank you. I had one earlier, but I thought it was going to be rude to keep my hand up while he had his presentation. Hello, Mr. Representative. Thank you for being with us. I have, I did not have any questions for you prior to this morning, so I do apologize that these were not set in advance, but they have come to me as we've been discussing. I want to note just one thing quickly before I get into my question. In that slide deck that you gave us, I appreciate and agree, yes, let's change suspect to student. I just want to note that little errors like that are indicative of a larger cultural problem. There had to have been at least one draft of that slide deck that was reviewed in advance of it passing along to you and then being presented to us. The fact that no one caught that but you it's very concerning. It's very concerning. I'm a little concerned, but I'm happy that you caught it and I look forward to seeing that changed to reflect student. There was something that was mentioned by Chancellor Banks earlier when he was discussing students potentially bringing weapons to school or bringing items from their home with the intention of using them as a weapon. And he mentioned that the intention is not for children to feel as though they're going through, I think what he said was an airport security to get into school every day. And I completely agree. One of the reasons that I went to the high school that I did was because my parents didn't want us passing through metal detectors. So I get it. He said after that, though, that they're looking into, or there will be functionality, some sort of security functionality that allows them to see what the students are carrying, even if they don't have to go through a metal detector. So to me, that sounds like covert surveillance. And I would like to understand what information is available or what program, like how's that going to work? Where is that technology being sourced from? Where is it being developed? If you have any information on that, I would love to know. Thank you.
So there are real aggressive asks out there around less invasive technology. And while multiple companies will talk about less invasive technology, I don't think that there's any such thing as less invasive technology. They're all invasive. The technology of which the chancellor talks about is a less invasive scanning device that we have at schools, because it is imperative that we think about equity in the true sense of the word, right? We don't scan in every school, right? We only scan in some schools, and that's a small portion of the schools. And unfortunately, many of those schools are in underprivileged neighborhoods, right? But we are obviously in uncertain times, and more schools, including our affluent schools, are asking for scanners in the school building. The scanning machine of which the chancellor speaks of, there is no real timeline for that being introduced into our school or school system as a whole yet. That particular scanning equipment would exist in our airports before they exist in our schools, right? Because right now you put your bag in the machine and they look the x-ray in the machine and then they send you through a walkthrough and then they check, for your person to see if you have any metal, all of those things. That's pretty invasive for a kid who's going to school in the morning. And depending on the process by which that occurs, it will dictate your day for a young person. So while there are many companies out there exploring that less invasive equipment that where kids can walk through with their book bags on their back and still see what's in the book bag, that's not developed yet. But we are talking to a lot of companies that are talking about where they are in that phase. We're nowhere near that just yet. We are still using the traditional scanning machines while we have entered into an agreement with a company that has a less invasive scanner, and I'm going to try to get a picture of one and just show it to you, just so you can get an idea of what we've done in the schools. You guys will be the first ones to see that right now while I'm talking to you. I'll pull one up, but that's what we're looking at right now. It's still the scanning walkthrough machine. They still go side by side with the X-ray machine, simply because the X-ray machine sees what's in the bag. These machines don't have the ability to tell you what's in a bag, like a box cutter or a pepper spray or anything like that. The walkthrough only tells that you have metal on your person, not what the metal is on your person. So we are far from what you're describing here. There are some aggressive claims by companies, but they're nowhere near what you're describing, man.
Right. Thank you so much. Chief Representative Mark, it's always a pleasure to have us on the platform. Thank you, always carving out time for us and to speak on around safety, which is always a concern 24/7 for our scholars and families. We really appreciate you. See if you could catch some of that Women History celebration and enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. And we're looking forward to seeing you soon again on our platform. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
I do know that there are some other regulations that you guys are interested in hearing about, and I will definitely come back to present on those respective regulations. I'll always be available to come back and talk to you about what's safety initiatives that we have up and coming and some of the things that we're doing to enhance safety in our school, and not only the physical but the emotional safety, which is super important. And I would always appreciate the opportunity to bring some of my team members to talk about the work that we're doing around suspensions, LGBTQ, bullying overall, gender equity, MBK, MSK, right? Just to give you guys a sense of what's happening in our space and what we're doing to increase support for our young people, as well as hear your collective and respective voices in this space, so that we're not making decisions in silos and there are not things that we're missing in this space. So I appreciate you just allowing me to come and spend this space with you. I was hoping this email went through so that I could show you, I'll give you an example of what the less invasive scanner looks like that we're currently utilizing in schools, so you don't think that we're bringing anything sci-fi into schools that are going to hurt kids and violate their space in any way. So yeah, there it is. It just came up. So if I could open this picture and just show it to you,
Yeah, of course.
it'll
And you are
be
always invited and your team. You know how we do. May, we would love to hear all those topics and have a conversation. I would like you to like tell us May, I think we're May 13th. I gotta look at the thing. When is our May meeting? But give you a month break from our beautiful faces and come back in May and have those discussions. We would greatly appreciate it. It's
Are you
more
able
it's
are you able to see this?
Yes, it's May 9th.
Okay.
It's our May meeting.
Can you see this photo that I'm showing you?
Yeah, it looked like two robot legs.
Looks like two robot legs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what you're used to going through is that boxy square machine. It's called a walkthrough, right? This right here, as you can see, it has the name of the school on it, William Grady High School. So this particular device is what we're using in schools now. It's much less invasive. It has the school's branding on it, so when kids see it and they walk through it, it doesn't look like a metal detector scanner, right? It does the same work as the walk-through boxy one that you walk through at an airport and others, but this is an idea of a less intrusive and less invasive scanning device. So I wanted to just share with you, Andrea, that this is where we are right now as we continue to make strides toward greater technology to ensure that our kids don't feel violated as they transition. So you guys are the first ones to really get a peek at what we're utilizing in schools in this space now. Right? It's a wireless system that has the ability to move from location to location. We can use it outside. We can scan football games and basketball games that occur outside if in fact there's a threat. But just wanted to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like.
Awesome.
All right.
We appreciate it so much. Thank you. And
All
we're
right.
looking forward. Hopefully we see you back in May.
In May. Absolutely. I'll schedule it now. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to our final agenda item, talk about federal stimulus expiration. And we have Randy Levine, who is the Policy Director at Advocates for Children, with us. Thank you for coming this morning, Ms. Levine, and you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Randy Levine. I'm Policy Director of Advocates for Children of New York. Great to see so many familiar faces on the screen. And I'm here today representing the Emergency Coalition to Save Education Programs, which is a coalition that came together in recent months due to our deep concern about many education programs that are currently funded with funds that are running out in June. And we're very concerned that there is not yet a commitment or a plan to continue these important programs starting just 4 months from now. So I'm going to share my screen. And anyone just let me know if you're having trouble. Oh, there we
can
go.
see your slides.
Okay, great. Our coalition was just in a meeting with Councilmember Joseph and City Council staff. So I'm also sitting in a hallway in City Hall. So let me know if you have trouble hearing at any point. So how did we get here? Over the past few years, the New York City Department of Education received about $7 billion from the federal government in temporary one-time federal COVID-19 relief funds. And I know some of you have heard a lot about this issue, but just want to make sure we all have the same information here. So New York City Public Schools used a portion of this funding for needs that truly stemmed from the pandemic and were temporary in nature. At the same time, New York City Public Schools also used a significant amount of funding, about $1 billion a year, to invest in long-term programs that have been needed for a long time, that were needed well before the pandemic and continue to be needed today. The problem is that this funding is running out. The New York City Department of Education expects it to be gone at the end of June, and in any event, it expires at the end of September. So the challenge is that there are many, many important education programs that we still need today, but the funding is running out. So we've been advocating at both the state and the city level to try to sustain these important investments. Unfortunately, what we saw on the state level is that the governor's proposed budget has changes to the school funding formula that would result in the New York City Department of Education getting around $130 million less than it otherwise would without these changes. We were glad to see this week that both the Assembly and the Senate have rejected those changes in their one-house budget proposals, but this all needs to be negotiated during the rest of this month to come up with the final state budget. And so this is something we have to be mindful of. And unfortunately, there was not a big additional substantial investment in education that would help the city continue these important programs as these federal dollars run out. And then on the city level, the mayor's proposed budget includes around $700 million in cuts to the New York City public school system. And that is in addition to programs that have city funding expiring in June and that have the federal funding expiring in June. So let's look at some of the education programs at risk of being cut unless the city and state act. And we put these words on the slide because we think it's so important to emphasize that this is not a wish list of new investments desired. These are current existing programs that are up and running that are on the chopping block. So the funding gap in each of the next slides, you'll see a dollar amount. Those funding gaps on the slides are just the amount of funding needed to keep these programs at the same level of funding next year as we have this year. Sometimes we'll get to the end of the presentations and folks will say, well, these would all be great things to have someday, but there's no money this year. So just emphasizing these are things that are up and running now, but they're being currently funded with funds that are expiring. So first, 3K and pre-K. New York City used a substantial amount of its federal COVID-19 relief funding to expand 3K. And that funding allowed the city to double the number of children participating in 3K and to guarantee 3-year-old in 12 of the 32 community school districts. But now that federal funding is running out, and as you've probably heard, there's also a proposed cut to city funding. And so if you add those numbers together, the gap that we have through federal funding and the amount of the cut being proposed, we get a $263 million funding gap from those expiring federal funds plus proposed city funding cuts. Preschool special education. The city is also currently using those temporary federal COVID-19 relief dollars to address several needs that have long existed for preschoolers with disabilities. So the main one is that the city is currently using funding to help give additional funding that was very much needed to preschool special education programs being run by community-based organizations. That has allowed these community-based organizations to increase teacher salaries just to pay the special education teachers the same amount as pre-K general education teachers at community-based organizations, because previously they were some of the lowest paid teachers in the entire city. It has also allowed the DOE to hire service providers to serve preschoolers with disabilities, providing them with services like speech therapy, as well as staff, preschool special education administrators and coordinators to help with the development of preschool IEPs. Even with this investment, we ended the last school year with more than 1,000 young children with disabilities waiting for seats in their legally mandated preschool special education classes. Imagine how much worse this systemic violation of legal rights is going to become if this funding goes away. If preschool special education teachers find out that they're going to be forced to take a $10,000 pay cut in July, we are going to see teachers leave, classes close, even more children waiting. I'm going to go through a number of the next slides more quickly, but these are a couple of the biggest investments and where there are really multiple ways that the city has used the funding, so wanted to spend a bit more time on that. Community schools. So as you all know, community schools are schools that partner with community-based organizations to provide comprehensive wraparound services to students and families. The New York City Department of Education expanded the number of community schools using temporary federal funds, as well as temporary one-year city funding. All of this funding is expiring, and on top of that, there's a proposed cut to city funding for community schools, leaving us with a $77 million funding gap in community schools starting in July. More than 100 community schools are at risk of being cut. Social workers. New York City public schools use these temporary federal funds to hire 450 school social workers, giving nearly 194,000 students access to a full-time social worker in their school. So we now have the potential, come September, for 190,000 students to lose access to a social worker in their school. Even with this investment, with the 450 social workers, there's only one school social worker for every 435 students enrolled in New York City schools. That's well above the suggested guidelines, and more than 240,000 students who do not have access to a full-time social worker. If we don't get these funds restored and continued, that will become far worse next school year. Learning to work programs. The New York City Department of Education is using these expiring federal funds they basically did a swap. So when they got the federal funding, they pulled out city funding and they replaced it with these temporary federal funds. The Learning to Work program provides support to overage undercredited students to help them earn a high school diploma and develop a post-secondary plan. And this temporary expiring federal funding represents more than 70% of the program's total budget. Bilingual programs and translation and interpretation services. The New York City Department of Education used these temporary federal funds to hire bilingual staff to support the education of English language learners, only 46% of whom graduated from high school in 4 years, even before the pandemic. And the New York City public schools also used funding to expand interpretation and translation services. More than 40% of students speak a language other than English at home. And of course, the need for translation and interpretation services, as well as the need for bilingual supports, has only grown as thousands of newly arrived immigrant students have arrived in our schools. Restorative justice practices. New York City Public Schools is using these temporary federal dollars to allow more schools to do restorative justice as an alternative to school suspensions, helping to keep students in the classroom and helping them build and repair relationships. The federal funding, $12 million, represents the majority of the city's investment in restorative justice. Shelter-based community coordinators. With expiring federal dollars as well as expiring one-year city funding, the DOE hired 100 shelter-based community coordinators to work on the ground to help students living in shelter get to school and get support with school-related needs. We are hearing about some incredible ways that these coordinators have made a difference in helping to connect students with school and helping to address barriers to attendance and getting students the support they need in school. But all 100 shelter-based coordinators are now on the chopping block as this funding expires. Of course, when New York City Public Schools 2 years ago first hired these coordinators, since that time, thousands of additional students have entered our shelters, and over the past school year, in the 22-23 school year, 40,000 students spent some time living in our city shelter. So we should be having a conversation about increasing these supports, certainly not cutting 100 shelter-based community coordinators. Psychologists and family workers. New York City Public Schools is currently using $10 million. With that money, they hired 60 school psychologists and 15 family workers to work with students with disabilities, to do the evaluations and hold IEP meetings for students with disabilities. Dyslexia programming and literacy initiatives. We agree with the chancellor that teaching children how to read is one of the most fundamental responsibilities of our schools. New York City Public Schools is currently using around $7 million in expiring federal funding to support screening, new specialized programs for students with dyslexia, and targeted reading intervention in dozens of schools. And then student success centers. New York City Public Schools is currently using $3.3 million a year in expiring federal funding to put these student success centers in 34 high schools, where trained youth leaders build a culture of college going and help their peers with the college admissions process. And let me just say that this is not a comprehensive list of the programs currently being funded with expiring federal funding. There are more. Everything we've talked about so far has expiring federal funding. Some of them also have one-year city funding or proposed city cuts. We also just wanted to note that there are a couple of additional programs that are funded entirely with expiring city funding that will end in June. So to highlight two of those programs, the Mental Health Continuum provides mental health support in 50 high-need schools in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, helping to expedite mental health care access for students and providing a range of supports. And then the Immigrant Family Communication and Outreach Program. This is a $4 million program that has allowed New York City Public Schools to better communicate with immigrant families and make sure they have information about the education system and their children's schools. This is also funded entirely with one-year city funding that is going away unless the city takes action. Students don't have to lose these programs. Budgets are about priorities. There are options at both the city and state levels to fund these programs, and we often uplift a number of options from the New York City Comptroller, from the Independent Budget Office. But at this point, the clock is ticking. The state budget deadline is April 1st. The city budget deadline is June. So what's at stake in your district? We have been working to produce one-pagers that give examples. They're definitely not a comprehensive list, but they do give examples of what is at risk in your district, both by council member as well as by community school district. I just realized that I tried to swap out a QR code and did it the wrong way, but for the QR code that you're seeing on the left, that will take you to a folder where you can then click on your council member district to find some examples of education programs at risk there, or your community school district. So we also have a folder with one-pagers by community school district. We don't have them all done, but probably will complete them in the next week or so. So you can check back there and we can send around this link as well following this presentation. And we are encouraging parents across the city to join with us. In partnership with Councilmember Rita Joseph, we held a town hall in Brooklyn, a town hall in Bronx, and we are working on scheduling town halls for the other boroughs. We are doing a rally and a press conference on the steps of City Hall on Monday at 9 a.m. The City Council Education Budget Hearing is at City Hall on Monday starting at 10 a.m. So please join us ahead of the Education Budget Hearing, Steps of City Hall, Monday, 9 a.m. to call on the city to continue these important programs and not let our students lose these important programs that they need, not take a devastating, massive step back in public education. We also have a call to action that you can sign by going to this link or scanning the QR code. And it allows you both to show your support as well as to tell us how else you'd like to be involved. So it also has a survey so that you can say, here are some things I'm interested in doing. And we have been working with CECs, with community boards on resolutions. And if your CEC has not yet passed a resolution, we're more than happy to work with you on that as well. We are at a critical point right now. We don't want to have to pick and choose between these programs. Is it more important for our students to get shelter-based coordinators or social workers in schools? We shouldn't have to choose. We should be able to continue all of these critical programs for our students and look forward to working with you to make that happen. So we just have a fun picture here of some of us up in Albany, and I will stop the share and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Levine. We do have a question in the chat. The first one is, how can we keep parents involved and excited to have their children attend public schools when there are so many supports being cut during one of the most pivotal times of high needs?
That sounds like a rhetorical question. And, you know, I think I'm certainly hoping that we can mobilize parents to fight these cuts and to ensure that our city leaders, that the mayor, that the city council know just how important all of these programs are, and that parents really care about continuing these programs. I think it is so important for every parent to make their voice heard right now as the city council and the mayor begin to negotiate the city budget.
Thank you. I'm just going to add, remember, most of you were in the beginning of the meeting with our call to action to have these conversations at your school leadership team, and this could involve other stakeholders as well. Call to action, right? To have these conversations and then advocate our elected officials that we need these fundings, we need these programs, and we know it takes money, and continually have that firm conviction. Money supposed to be continually coming in for education and not cutting education needs, because we have a lot of needs out there, and we want to support all of our scholars and families throughout New York City public schools. Any other questions for Randy? And Randy as in Randy Levine and not my co-chair. And feel free, do you have, yes, she already put it in the chat. So her email's in the chat. If you come up with any other questions in regards to advocacy, please feel free to email her. Again, please have those conversations at the district level and at the school level. We all sit on both district leadership team and school leadership teams, and encourage our families to have these conversations and speak and in the way that they can with their elected officials, either for calling them, sending a email, or actually coming out to City Hall and to these hearings and these spaces and town halls. And Rashida's saying hi to you as going forth there. So again, okay, I don't see any other questions, but I can see that our members are very happy that you came and spoke to us. We appreciate it very much to help solidify our call to action. This is all of us needs to step up and do this, and strengthening that parent voice. We always keep talking about. We increase the numbers, they're going to have to hear us. Right? They're going to have to know this is one, because not only that we're parents and families, but we're also voters, right? We make a difference at our local government and at the state and federal. So please keep that in mind. And we don't encourage for any particular person, but we do encourage that you do vote. Early voting is this month. So please keep that in mind. Thank you, Ms. Levine, and we're looking forward to partnering and talking to you some more.
Thank you so much. Please
Keep up
join
the
us
fight.
Monday at 9 and feel free to reach out to me for additional ways you can get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I gotta share my screen for a second here. All right. So we know that, and we have discussed this many times. Usually we do it in the beginning of each school year, collaboration, partnership, advocacy. But in the regs, you're to have quarterly meetings with, and I say we, because we're president's councils, with our CECs respectively, our respective education councils, correct? We have so many topics that we are both advocating for. This should be a no-brainer, right? Giving updates on each other's monthly meeting is not a quarterly meeting. Quarterly meetings are very specific in the regs. We're gonna pick a date. We're gonna pick a topic that it concerns the community, and it's a partnership and collaboration by both parties. One is not dictating to the other. Is the collaboration. And this is one about the budget is like a no-brainer. So I know that most of the education councils are called to call on this, especially about the expiration of the stimulus funds are being expired. Why don't we do it together, right? We service the same community. We service the same scholars. So we should, I'd like encourage there. I'm not Staten Island, but I like their logos. We use CEC 24 there. We use CEC 31 on our thing. But please, this is something that we can push and unite parent voices about the stimulus spending and those cuts to those programs. And then at the school level, again, with having this conversation at your school leadership team this month about your school, right? It directly affects your child at your school. Some of these the expiration of the federal stimulus package. And remember that budget line is ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, when you take a look at the budget. Anybody, Randy, you want to add to this particular, because I really wanted you to talk about, so Randy sits, well, I guess I do too, but Randy sits on both sides of the
CEC and President's Council. Yes. But every time I want to say something, you basically have said it all. So there's really nothing.
Listen, repetition is not the repetition for reinforcement. Don't hurt. So go ahead and speak.
No, of course. I mean, we should be working together hands in hand, CECs and President's Councils, along with our Title I PACs, our SLTs, all parent leaders. We should all have a voice. This is important for our children. So we want to make sure that we work together. You know, working together is definitely better. So we should start having these conversations with our counterparts and move forward, pass resolutions. Everybody can sign off on it in the district and just keep moving forward. And there's, you know, having the numbers supporting this is where they're going to listen to us and they're going to hear us, and hopefully we can make a difference.
Yes, and have those conversations. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave this on the screen, but last call, any old or new business you would like to discuss? Any other questions that you would like to raise at this time? I know we're a little bit over time, but thank you for staying on. We had a really full and engaging conversations today, and thank you for that. I'm going to put my screen down for a second so I can see your pretty faces. Any other questions or business comments, concerns? We're going to ask again, reminder, please use those questionnaires. For this month, we had no questions? Last month we had a lot of, the month prior, we had a lot of questions. Okay, yeah, so Rosa is reminding us, because I know some of you are at work and can't speak, but PEP meeting, nominating committees, which we went over earlier, hoping we have great candidates. So please encourage your constituents, your parents, to please put in and help volunteer. This is another way to advocate. So yes, thank you for that reminder. Spring elections, again, volunteers, we need them. We need them. We need to develop those our leadership skills in our parent base, our families, so they can help volunteer. And just to know, because if they don't know how they're going to hold current parent leaders accountable, right? We all need to be held accountable, a reminder of our roles and responsibilities, and also to help on the side. So we got our spring elections. Reach out to your to each other for help, and those who are listening, reach out to your corresponding or president's councils for assistance. And when you do have your parent coordinator and your family leadership coordinators out there, as for further support, as Anthony can contest to that. Before I go back to my slides, Mr. Settle, you have any final words you would like to share? It is March Madness.
I would only reiterate what has already been said. Your voice is important. There's no such thing as a dumb or stupid question. Bring back information to your constituents and bring their feedback back to your points. That's I can't stress that more than anything, because that's how parent voice is amplified through you and your representation of them. So bring their concerns back to the table so that they can be resolved.
Awesome, thank you. Two-way flow of communications. Thank you so much. I am going to share my slide and see like my voice survived. So our next virtual general membership meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 11. It is going to be virtual. I really would like, and I'm gonna start, we haven't had the conversation, but I would like to have minimum a hybrid meeting either in June or August. And we discuss it's March Madness, those who love basketball, and those in the work that we do, education, it's March Madness for us as well. Spring is in the air. Soon spring will be officially upon us. Those who celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and I think on the 17th of the month, we're all Irish, and enjoy that day. And the Easter this year is in March. So those who celebrate Easter, we have the Holy Thursday, Good Friday off. Please enjoy those holidays. And, those math enthusiasts, happy Pi Day to you. And again, of course, a look back at history, influential women, all of you here on this platform who are females or influential, and you're influential at your school, at your local level, in your communities. That's what makes the parent voice is so great and diverse, because we have a diverse multiple individuals here who have something to offer at the tables, both at the local, district, borough, city level. So let's continue to support one another, share information, and try to have fun, right? As we doing it. Sometimes it gets a little difficult, but we have each other's backs, right? So at this time, unless people have more to share, would anyone would like to bring our meeting to an adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, District 31.
Second.
That was District 3?
Yes.
Thank you. The time now is 12:43 p.m. and our meeting is adjourned. And thank you for staying to the end. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy Women's History Month. Enjoy
Thank
your
you,
weekend.
everyone. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Shirley, Randy, y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, now stop the
Wait,
recording.
wait. I should have did the